Nicholas O'Kelly and Drew Howard on
The Weekend Sit and Spin. We'll keep on spinning all day long. It's the Weekend Sit and Spin. We'll keep on spinning all night long. We'll sit, we'll spin, 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 spin. With Nick O'Kelly and Drew Howard.
And good Saturday morning to you out there in the Kinetic Hi-Fi or Spreaker.com universe, listening to us on either one of those two places. This is the Weekend Sit and Spin, Saturday, November the 29th. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Nick O'Kelly's doing some traveling. He's out of the studio today. He'll probably call in a little while, and we'll have him for at least a little bit of the show. But we want to wish him the best as he's doing some holiday traveling. And I'm your host for the day, Drew Howard. We're going to jump right down into this. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving week. It's been a crazy week out there. It's been a very crazy week. Sitting here thinking right before we came on the air how I was changing the words to it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas to it's beginning to look a lot like insanity out there. We see that, and a lot of it based around Ferguson, Missouri, and the Mike Brown verdict that came in this week. Or should I say the grand jury's decision not to indict Darren Wilson for the death of Mike Brown. And we're seeing a lot of issues coming out of there. First off, the grand jury papers were full of inconsistencies. I got a video from Inform.com where a lot of what we're finding out now is conflicting stories coming out, things that didn't match up to the physical evidence coming out, and still a lot of people not willing to accept the truth. It's hard to argue with facts. But not when we've had a government-ran institution like our educational system that's been telling students that they don't need any true facts, that everything's based on how they feel. If you feel like 3 times 4 equals 11, then 3 times 4 equals 11. So when you take facts out of the equation, this is what you're left with. A bunch of emotional people that can't understand common, basic factual information, that cannot understand the forensics, the factual evidence that we have in this case that backs up Officer Wilson's testimony, that backs up what other people in the community were saying before they were intimidated, before they were forced into lying by this whole snitches get stitches campaign in these urban communities. Let me go ahead and jump into a video right here out of Inform.com. They'll set the stage, and then we'll go back right after that.
Some witnesses said Michael Brown had been shot in the back. Another said he was face down on the ground when Officer Darren Wilson finished him off. Still others acknowledged changing their stories to fit published details about the autopsy, or admitted that they did not see the shooting at all. An Associated Press review of thousands of pages of grand jury documents reveals numerous examples of statements made during the shooting investigation that were inconsistent, fabricated, or probably wrong. For one, the autopsies ultimately showed Brown was not struck by any bullets in his back.
And that goes on to show even further that this whole line of hands up, don't shoot is based on a lie. We'll get to that one in just a moment, though. Let's go ahead first over this Breitbart article that's coming to us out of Breitbart.com. In Ferguson, witness intimidation, lying by community of color. Got on Monday night, after the release of the grand jury's verdict rejecting the indictment of Officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri shooting, the Ferguson, Missouri shooting of an 18-year-old black man, Michael Brown, President Obama took to the microphones and, quote, "We need to recognize that this is not just an issue for Ferguson. This is an issue for America," he said. "There are still problems in communities of color that aren't just making these problems up." Well, from what we're seeing here out of the grand jury testimony that's so contradictory, this community is making it up. And that's what the article goes on to say. Obama was wrong, at least in the case of Darren Wilson. In viewing thousands of pages of FBI interviews and grand jury testimony, it becomes eminently clear that many members of the local community did make up the story about Michael Brown being executed by Wilson and pressured others to lie to the police or keep silent. According to the St. Louis County Police investigative report, the mob mentality took root almost immediately after the shooting. And you see that in some of the videos that are put out there, where you see the mob mentality already taking root while the poor man's still laying on the ground. His body's still laying out there, and you've already got the lynch mob mentality going on. in some of the videos. No, you didn't see what you thought you said. You got the one guy talking that said, man, the brother kept charging the cop. You got that one, and they're like, no, you didn't. You didn't see that. Nothing to see here. Move along. But according to the St. Louis County Police investigative report, the mob mentality took root almost immediately after the shooting. By the time the detectives arrived at the scene of the incident, there was a large crowd of bystanders and a large uniformed police presence at the scene when detectives arrived. That crowd included both Brown's mother and his stepfather, according to witness testimony. The police report states many individuals were clearly upset and were expressing their frustration at the times by yelling obscenities and threats and attempting to encroach on the crime scene itself. It got worse. As the scene investigation continued, there were several large groups of hostile individuals around the perimeter of the crime scene. The investigation of the scene was interrupted several times by death threats directed towards police officers and gunshots being fired by unknown persons around the crime scene. This was back in August. The gunshots were being fired around the crime scene and that death threats were being yelled. This was the day of the event. This was already happening. We're not talking about Monday night with the gunshots that were ringing out after the report came out. According to a police report, a bevy of witnesses described intimidation from the local community as well as falsification of testimony. One witness initially told police she didn't want to get involved for fear of retaliation. She said, "I don't know these people. I have to live here." Another female witness told police, "I don't know nothing." An adult male near the scene commented to the detectives as they walked by that he witnessed the incident and the officer said he was in the right and said the officer was in the right and did what he had to do. He added the statements being made by the bystanders in the complex were inaccurate. The detectives momentarily stopped to speak with the male, who was clearly uncomfortable speaking with the detectives. The male indicated he was not making any further comments or identifying himself. Two more witnesses, one male and one female, said they were afraid to speak out about what they witnessed. Both said they were worried about retaliation from people who live in the area. One began crying and said she couldn't talk about it. The male said that he saw Brown inside the vehicle. He turned away, and when he turned back, the male began moving quickly toward the officer, and he heard several more gunshots. Both witnesses refused to provide recorded statements. One witness told police that she had been speaking with her neighbors about the incident, and her neighbors were getting upset at what they believed happened. Their beliefs were inconsistent with what she witnessed. So, again, it's what they felt happened, not what really happened here. And this, from top to bottom, was a horrifically tragic event, but it was not a problem of cop brutality in this instance. This was not another case of Oscar Grant. This was not another case of Kelly Thomas. This was not another case of Eric Gardner. This was a case of a police officer being attacked and defending himself. Yet the witness told police that although present during the incident and seeing the entirety of what happened, he would not be speaking to police for fear of retaliation from neighborhood residents. He also stated the information being broadcast by the news outlets was not accurate information and there were blatant lies from those giving accounts of what they saw. He said there were multiple people present when the shooting occurred, and even those people, when interviewed by the media, were giving false statements. Again, when you have a mile-long rap sheet, when you're intimidating people to lie, when you don't want the truth, when you want what your events to happen the way that you want them to happen, not the way that they actually played out and happened. As it says here, their beliefs were inconsistent with what she witnessed. When they want their beliefs to be one way, but the truth is another way, and they're lying, it's hard to take it at its word. A lot of people are commenting, well, Dorian Johnson was the closest one to the whole incident. He saw the whole incident. Why is his testimony being discredited? Maybe because he was robbing the convenience store with Mike Brown minutes before it. Maybe because he has a history of criminal activity, a history of lying, and nobody's taking him seriously. I have to ask this question. Do you not have Aesop's fables in the black neighborhoods, people? Do you not have that? Do you not have the boy crying wolf? Do you not have Chicken Little? Do you not see what happens when you're known as a liar? When you constantly lie, when you constantly bend the truth, and when you constantly don't follow positive social values, then this is the result that you get. And we're going to get into another article that came out from an NFL running back. You know, we've seen all the celebrities and sports stars tweeting out, and there's one person that made a Facebook post that really gets to the heart of what the problem with Ferguson not only the riots, but the Mike Brown shooting and everything really, truly is. And we'll get to that in a few moments. Because, again, we like to give credit where credit's due here at the Weekend Sit and Spin, and there was a great article about it, or a great Facebook post about it. Where are we at? Still, another witness told police that he had already told investigators from the St. Louis County Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation that he was not willing to formally discuss the incident, but he was willing to discuss his fears. He said threats had been made to the residents of Canfield Green apartment complex. He said notes had been posted on various apartment buildings threatening people not to talk to the police, and gunshots were still being fired every night. He said, and there were at least 10 other people who were outside and saw exactly what happened. He was not willing to provide any names of those individuals. He said Wilson told Brown no less than 10 times to get down, and while they were both on the street, he said Brown never had his hands raised. So once again, this whole hands up, don't shoot, based on a lie. In the FBI interviews, witnesses repeated such accusations. Witness number 10, whose account has backed Wilson's story, said, I just wanted to come forward and tell it how I seen it because I feel like it's very rare that somebody's going to come forward and tell actually what happened. Witness 14, who initially said Brown was shot from behind before changing his story to accord with the facts, stated, you have to understand the mentality of some of these young guys. They have nothing to do. And when they can latch on to something, they embellish it because they want something to do. It is something that it is something they giving the okay now, and we've got something we can get into. The majority of them do not work. All they do is sit around and get high all day. 2 people, never seen these people before in my life. The whole time I've been out there, and I sit out there a lot, came up threatening, hey, y'all better not say nothing. Y'all snitching and all. So, Witness 14 added that within 1 minute of the shooting, there were 70 or 80 people saying things that didn't happen. They started embellishing it when the stepfather showed up. They lied, and he said... They lied, he said, when they said the officer ran up behind him and shot him in the back. They lied, he said, when they said that he had his hands straight up in the air. They lied, he said, when they stated that Brown was shot while down. They all had it in the mindset of what happened. They are set there looking for a reason to explode. That's what because they don't have anything to do. They got nothing else to do. They running all day. They're drinking and getting high all day, and we see this all the time. So he's saying that a lot of the rioting and protests sprung out of boredom in the community. The fact that they had nothing to do, looking for a little bit of excitement. It's exciting to go burn down the AutoZone. It's exciting to go burn down Shanika's hair studio. It's exciting to go burn down the Quick Trip and burn down the Ferguson Market. Got to think, where's Dorian Johnson's going to be stealing his cigars from now? They burnt down the Ferguson Market. Indeed, witness testimony showed that witnesses routinely embellished their accounts, changed them to fit autopsy reports as those results broke in the media, and even lied about seeing the events at all. After Dorian Johnson, Brown's alleged accomplice in robbing a local convenience store, went on television and told his false story about Brown having been shot from behind and raising his hands before being killed, witnesses began shifting their own testimony to match. Multiple witnesses said that they knew Johnson, and one said that she had spoken with him before talking to the FBI. 2 witnesses brought in handwritten notes to police, matching in wording and other respects. Oh, so see, they wrote out the script. We have the script in Ferguson now. We have the script that told them, go along with this. Say that it was Mike Brown had his hands in the air. Say that he was shot in the back. But, of course, is CNN going to pick this up? Are we going to have Don Lemon talking about how hands up, don't shoot as an inaccurate statement? No, he's just going to keep peeing his pants about having his earpiece ripped out on TV. We're going to have MSNBC doing that? No. Let me find these two. This one I found last night. The tweets about it. I'll see if I can find that. We're up against the first break. I'll see if I can find that and read you the difference in reporting tweets, and you tell me if one was trying to stir up racial animosity or not. We'll read 2 different tweets. The tweet from, I believe it was MSNBC or CNN, and then the Fox News tweet about what happened when the jury broke on Monday. I'll find those during our first break that we're almost up against, but let's continue right here with this. At least 12 witnesses claim that Brown was shot from behind, which is factually false. At least 16 witnesses said Brown's hands were up when he was shot, which is factually false. One witness said Wilson used a taser, then a gun. False. Another said she witnessed the events but admitted she was blocks away when the events occurred. looking through a dirty screen on her window and a bunch of trees with leaves on them. She couldn't make an accurate assessment, an accurate decision. Huh. It's a little my cousin Vinny humor there. I'll find that clip on break as well. One witness admitted in testimony to changing his story to coincide with what really happened. Another witness said he was friends with Brown and that Brown was shot while on his knees. When informed that the story contradicted all physical evidence, the man admitted that he had not seen the shooting and then asked if he could leave because he was uncomfortable. The looting, rioting, protesting are all secondary to the AstroTurf case against Officer Darren Wilson in the first place. At least in Ferguson, one community of color did make up this problem. The media went along with it, ignoring it, the intimidation and the witness lying. An innocent man by all physical evidence and vast majority of the reliable witness testimony could have gone to prison or death row because of it. And they're talking about because of the mob mentality. Anyways, we're going to get into a lot of this going on today. The riots, the breakdown, what we're seeing with our society completely falling into a Planet of the Apes mentality following, again, all physical evidence exonerates Officer Darren Wilson. I agree we have an out-of-control police state in this country, but this is not an example of it. This is the Weekend Sit and Spin. We'll be right back.
The thing they call divine, when all the stars will smile for me, when all is well and will is all for all, and forever after, but maybe in the meantime wait and see. I'll be all you.
Yeah, it's what happens when you cross big with small. ConnecticutFi.com. It's me. What you think I was gonna say? Hey, you people get your head together. I don't even know what you're trying to add to the I ain't got that.
Do you sometimes think life was just better when I was young? Maybe you're right. You know, there has been a marked decline in girls ages 8 to 14 that participate in Girl Scouting. And today we're looking for girls who are ready to be the leaders of tomorrow. Girls in this age group are vital to Scouting. They serve as role models for younger girls and uplift the community. And ladies, we need you to be that example too. Become a volunteer, a troop leader, or just enroll your daughter in Girl Scouts today. Call 843-552-9910 to learn more.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
You're listening to KineticHiFi.com, baby.
Welcome back into the Weekend Sit and Spin. KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. One of the longest running shows right here on KineticHiFi.com. That's right, we just passed 2 years, folks. 2 years we've been on the air for. Nick O'Kelly and myself bringing you the news. Our spin every Saturday morning right here from 9 to noon. Of course, we have changed our time period in there. When we originally started out, it was Saturdays noon to 2. So moved it up earlier in the morning for you, get you back out to your day on Saturday. And here's what I kind of teased before the break I wanted to get into. The differences in how the news media has reported this case from top to bottom. Because there's been a lot of controversy out there, a lot of people talking about the fact that the news media wants these riots we've seen this week. They wanted to see the AutoZone burn to the ground. They wanted to see Shanika's hair studio burn to the ground. They wanted to see the Flood Church burn to the ground. And if you don't believe me, look at the way that these two news medias announced the news in a tweet. They sent out their official Twitters. That's how everything gets released now, is on Twitter. Fox News, breaking news. Grand jury does not indict officer in Ferguson case. Short, sweet, and to the point. Now let's jump over to the CNN tweet about it. No indictment for Darren Wilson, the white police officer who fatally shot Michael Brown, an unarmed black teen. Tell me which one of those, between those two tweets, is out for blood. Tell me which one of those wants to start a race war, wants to see a race riot happen. That's what we've got from the top down. We've got from the Obama administration this week with his comments about it. I'm getting ready to play a video that he gave in Chicago Tuesday following it, which we've already squashed. I've already smashed that video and his statements in it to pieces. However, I'm going to play this video. But you're going to see that there is a narrative from the top down in this country right now, from the White House, from the Department of Justice, to start a race war. That's what they want. So Obama's running through the halls of Congress right now, in the halls of the White House, screaming like he's Eric Cartman from South Park about a race war. That's what he's doing. He's running around here. And there may be, I'm not sure if this will be bleeped out or not. There may be some profanity in here. If there is, folks, I do apologize. But we're going to play this video from South Park real quick about it, because this is the way that Obama's been salivating. And his Justice Department's been salivating for this.
Say it isn't a big deal. Oh, shit, here we go. It's on. Race war. Race war. Race war. Race war's on, everybody. It's going down. Shit is going.
Yeah, they bleeped it out there. So, okay, we were safe playing that one. And then tried to keep it a family show. I do want to apologize about last week. We had some language sneak in there at the end when our studio owner, Boyd Stow, sat in. Kind of hard to tell the studio owner. Yeah, I can't really say that, but little South Park clip there for you. But that's what Obama's running around like. He's trying to stir this up with his comments. In fact, this was Tuesday at Copernicus Community Center in Chicago, Illinois. President Barack Obama addressed the riots and protests going on throughout the country in reaction to the grand jury's announcement that Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson will not face charges for the fatal shooting of Michael Brown, by justifying the anger as it's rooted in reality, but condemning the violence as non-productive. So again, talking out both sides of his mouth here. And should we be surprised, as we've said time and time again, if you were sitting there listening to Jesus describe Lucifer, talking about that he came like a bolt of lightning from heaven, he would have used the words Barack Obama to describe Satan, because that is the Aramaic for lightning from heaven. In Jesus' own words, this man is Lucifer. Let's get to the clip.
And as I said last night, the frustrations that we've seen, not just about a particular incident. They have deep roots in many communities of color who have a sense that our laws are not always being enforced uniformly or fairly. That may not be true everywhere, and it's certainly not true for the vast majority of law enforcement officials, but that's an impression that folks have, and it's not just made up. It's rooted in realities that have existed in this country for a long time. Now, as I said last night, there are productive ways of responding and expressing those frustrations, and there are destructive ways of responding. Burning buildings, torching cars, destroying property, putting people at risk. That's destructive, and there's no excuse for it. Those are criminal acts. And people should be prosecuted if they engage in criminal acts. But what we also saw, although it didn't get as much attention in the media, was people gathering in overwhelmingly peaceful protests here in Chicago and New York, and Los Angeles, other cities. We've seen young people who are organizing, and
we're going to get to the peaceful protest in just a moment. I'll get back to the video. I just wanted to comment because he said, we've seen overwhelming numbers of peaceful protests, which are leading to crying children. I don't consider a protest peaceful if you have kids crying.
And people begin to have real conversations about how do we change the situation so that there's more trust between law enforcement and some of these communities. And those are necessary conversations to have. You know, we're here to talk about immigration, but part of what makes America this remarkable place is being American doesn't mean you have to look a certain way or have a certain last name or come from a certain place. It has to do with a commitment to ideals, a belief in certain values. And if any part of the American community doesn't feel welcomed or treated fairly, that's something that puts all of us at risk. And we all have to be concerned about it. So my message to those people who are constructively moving forward, trying to organize, mobilize, and ask hard, important questions about how we improve the situation, I want all those folks to know that their president is going to work with them. And I think you'll find a lot of separate and apart from the particular circumstances of Ferguson, which I am careful not to speak to because it's not my job as president to comment on ongoing investigations and specific cases, but the frustrations people have generally, those are rooted in some hard truths that have to be addressed. And so those who are prepared to work constructively, your president will work with you. And a lot of folks, I believe, in law enforcement, and a lot of folks in city halls and governor's offices across the country want to work with you as well. So as part of that, I've instructed Attorney General Eric Holder not just to investigate what happened in Ferguson, but also identify specific steps we can take together to set up a series of regional meetings focused on building trust in our communities. And next week, we'll bring together state and local officials and law enforcement and community leaders and faith leaders to start identifying very specific steps that we can take to make sure that law enforcement is fair and is being applied.
And these community leaders and faith leaders that he's talking about, they're going to be community leaders and faith leaders like the Reverend Al Sharpton, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. Think about it. Think about exactly what we've heard time and time again from these supposed faith-based community leaders. Do we have to go back to Al Sharpton in a tracksuit in the 80s screaming about Tawana Bradley? Another falsified case. Or how about the Duke Lacrosse case a few years ago? Another falsified case where a little, you know what? This caused Don Imus a lot of controversy and took him off the air a little bit when he used that infamous term. But that's what I'm going to say. You know, I'm not going to say the term, but you know the term I'm talking about to describe the Duke Lacrosse rapist, little hood rat that screamed rape there to try to get money and take down a bunch of rich Duke boys. Ends up, she's now in prison for stabbing her boyfriend or committing some other violent crime. I don't even know what it is now. I can't keep up with them. We need a program like you're at a sporting event to keep up with all these crimes that these supposed ghetto saints are out there causing. And again, we hear it. We hear the preacher coming out. Oh, Mike Brown was supposed to be baptized this week, and he died in August, so now he couldn't be baptized. But he was such a good little boy. We're going to get to this preacher saying that a little bit later on. But again, it's you canonize and sanctify demons. That's all they are. They're demons run amok. Anyways, back to more lies from our demonic commander-in-chief.
Equally to every person in this country. And we know certain things work. We know that if we train police properly, that improves policing and makes people feel that the system's fair. We know that when we have a police force that is representative of the communities it's serving, that makes a difference. We know that...
Hey, here's an idea. How about I agree. We need to train police. And we do a decent job with that. But then again, we've also allowed this gang mentality, this mob mentality, to inflect our police departments. I get so sick and tired of seeing those stickers with that thin blue line. And that whole mentality of we are the thin blue line. You drew your battle lines, police officers, when you did that, when you made yourselves a gang. When you decided to put on your colors. Because that's all it is gang mentality. You want to drop that? Drop this whole us versus them mentality. It needs to start from the cops down. Look, cops have a dangerous job, and we need to support them when they have to do the hard decisions, like in this case of Darren Wilson, when he's got a 6'4", 300-pound, linebacker-sized man. I'm tired of them calling him a kid. He was 18 years old. He was old enough to fight in combat. He was old enough to vote. He was a man. He was a 6'4", 300-pound man that dropped his head and started charging. All physical evidence and the reliable witness testimonies back that play. That's why Darren Wilson was not indicted. And when officers are faced with those tough decisions, we need to back their play. But at the same time, what we need to do is we need to get away from the cops being pencil pushers. We need to get away from them being secretaries in a lot of ways, or being revenuers in a lot of ways. We need to stop all of this BS laws that are on the books. Oh, I'm going to pull you over and harass you because your tag's out of date. Or I'm going to pull you over and harass you because your license plate light is out. I'm going to pull you over and harass you because you're not wearing your seatbelt. The fact is we have too many laws on the books right now that do nothing but get revenue for these departments. And that's where the problem comes in with the cops and the community. Because the cops think it's their civic duty out there to fleece the public out of money that they don't have because we're in an economic crisis right now. And so they're out there harassing people that aren't breaking any laws. Let's get our cops back focusing on the murderers, on the rapists, on the arsonists, on the psychopaths, on the sadists. Let's get them out there focusing on that. Not focusing on who let their tag go out of date, or whose license plate light is burnt out, or who has one of those little plastic advertisement license plate rings around their license plate. Let's go after the drunk drivers. Let's not go after the people who have a light bulb burn out or a crack in their windshield. That is one of the things that I like living in South Carolina as opposed to living in North Carolina. There is a little more leeway. They don't come after you for as much of these small, minor, Barry Soetoro style, just BS infractions that you see. In South Carolina, there's a saying that regards speeding. And I'm not trying to endorse speeding before any of our listeners out there think I'm trying to endorse that we turn every national highway or every American road into the Autobahn and do away with speed limits. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is most people do not follow speed limit signs. And in South Carolina, there's a saying, it goes 9 you're fine, 10 you're mine. Basically meaning if you're 9 miles or lower over the speed limit, generally you're not going to get pulled over. Once you hit 10 miles per hour over the speed limit, you're fair game, they're going to pull you. You know, it's a 9 you're fine, 10 you're mine mentality. And maybe we need that more of an approach because, again, at that point, that's where you become a little more dangerous, and that's what they're trying to get to. But what we need to stop having cops out there penalizing people for every minor infraction. Then you'll build back some trust. And again, black communities, quit harboring your criminals. Quit setting up this mentality of lie to the police. Quit putting up flyers around that snitches get stitches. You want to talk about a trust issue? It's a trust issue on both sides. And I'm not going to sit here and whitewash it and excuse it like Barry Sotero's doing in this interview we're listening to about our most BS president ever. His initials are even BS. Let's get back to this clip while I calm down a minute.
Well, we know that when there's clear accountability and transparency when something happens, that makes a difference. So there's specific things we can do. And the key now is for us to lift up the best practices and work city by city, state by state, county by county, all across this country, because the problem is not just a Ferguson problem, it is an American problem. And we've got to make sure that we are actually bringing about change. The bottom line is nothing of significance, nothing of benefit results from destructive acts. I've never seen a civil rights law or a health care bill or an immigration bill result because a car got burned. It happened because people vote. It happened because people mobilize. It happened because people organize. It happens because people look at what are the best policies to solve the problem. That's how you actually move something forward. So don't take the short-term easy route and just engage in destructive behavior. Take the long-term hard but lasting route of working with me and governors, officials to bring about some real change. And to those
haven't we
who
been hearing
think
the same
that,
narrative for 6 years now?
What happened
Haven't
in
we
Ferguson
been
is an
hearing the
excuse for
change
violence.
narrative?
I do not have any sympathy for that. I have no sympathy at all for destroying your own communities. But for the overwhelming majority of people who just feel frustrated and pained because they get a sense that maybe some communities aren't treated fairly or some individuals aren't seen as worthy as others.
Again, this is based on your actions. These are the consequences of decisions you make. You want to be seen as trustworthy? Grow out of poverty. You want to be seen as trustworthy? Like we said in the first article where we were talking about the inconsistencies in the Ferguson report and the people that were sitting there saying, man, these guys just want something to do because all they do is sit around all day and get drunk and high. Stop doing that. They were talking about these men don't have jobs. Go get a job. Build yourself up. Make something of your life. Don't be an apathetic lump of crap that's not doing anything other than sitting on a doorstep all day, drinking a 40 and getting high. Because that doesn't lead to trustworthy values. And then what do? The people that are small business owners in that community, you burn their businesses to the ground in your riots. Where's that? Why isn't he pushing education? You want to beat back and you want to keep another Michael Brown from happening? Let's teach them education. Let's teach them common courtesy. Let's teach them respect. Let's teach what's our motto here at the Weekend Sentence Spin of being excellent to each other. Because do you think Mike Brown was excellent to that store clerk at the Ferguson Market when he's shoving him into a bread rack? Is that being excellent? I ask you. Is when a cop tells you to get out of the street, you attack him, punch him through his car window, and try to take his gun. Is that being excellent to each other? Do you think that is a move that is being excellent to Officer Darren Wilson? Punching him, trying to take his gun, charging him like a bull. Like Mike Brown was in Pamplona and Officer Wilson was running down the street. Is that being excellent? Now think about it. Maybe if Mike Brown had just gotten out of the street when Officer Wilson told him to, instead of bowing up and taking a disrespect for telling him to quit walking down the middle of the road. That's what sidewalks are for. And I see this all the time, and I don't understand it. I do not understand why in these communities people insist on walking down the center of the road. But you see it. You see it here around Charleston. I don't get it. It happens. I don't understand that. That's dangerous for you. That's dangerous for the cars. That's dangerous for everybody. That's why we have sidewalks. Certain areas, they can't even get biking lanes and biking sidewalks, even though that would be the safest thing. They fight for that. But here in our low-income communities, we have people that just choose to walk down the middle of the road. But back to the point I was making. If Mike Brown had been excellent when Darren Wilson told him to get out of the road and just stepped over to the curb, he could have continued to party on, dudes. He wouldn't have been laying dead in the center of the road for 4 hours. Wrapping up this video, there's only a couple seconds left, so we'll play that and finish it out.
I understand that. And I want to work with you, and I want to move forward with you. Your president will be right there with you. All right? So that's what we need to focus on. Let's be constructive. Now, I appreciate your patience because I know you came here to talk about immigration, but this is relevant because part of what America's about is
President Obama in Chicago talking about the situation.
There we go. We'll go ahead and cut that off before it gets into the tags for Fox News. But there you heard him. And nothing that he said in that speech is going to make a tangible difference. All that's doing is inciting. It's race-based politics, fighting some more. It's not going to make a tangible difference going forward. Nothing in that speech. Well, we want to work together to find a way to make sure this doesn't happen again. Let me pull this up. Benjamin Watson. I've got a video here that I was going to talk about, but you want to get to the bottom of it? You want to get to what we really need to do? This was his first New Orleans Saints player, Benjamin Watson, Saints tight end, went on his Facebook like so many other people did in response to the news coming out Monday evening late that they were not going to indict Darren Wilson. He goes to his Facebook page, and Benjamin Watson, this man has the second highest score on the Wonderlic test, which is before you're drafted as an NFL player, you take a test to assess. Basically, it's an IQ test that they do. It's a different assessment that a university, I believe it's Harvard, maybe one of the big ones, maybe Stanford, one of the big educational bastions of liberalism in this country, put together this test that they give to every prospective NFL player. It's called the Wonderlic test. Benjamin Wilson has the second highest score on that test behind Ryan Fitzpatrick. And he goes to his Facebook page after the news came out and puts this post. At some point while I was playing or preparing to play Monday Night Football, the news broke about the Ferguson decision. After trying to figure out how I felt, I decided to write it down, and here are my thoughts. I'm angry because the stories of injustice that have been passed down for generations seem to be continuing before our very eyes. I'm frustrated because pop culture, music, and movies glorify these types of police-citizen altercations and promote an invincible attitude that continues to get young men killed in real life away from the safety of movie sets and music studios. I'm fearful because in the back of my mind, I know that although I'm a law-abiding citizen, I can still be looked upon as a threat to those who don't know me. So I will continue to have to go the extra mile to earn the benefit of the doubt. I'm embarrassed because the looting, the violent protests, law-breaking only confirm in the minds of many and in the minds of many validate the stereotypes and thus inferior treatment. I'm sad because another young life was lost from his family. The racial divide has widened. A community is in shambles. Accusations, insensitively hurt and hatred are boiling over, and we may never know the truth about what happened that day. I'm sympathetic because I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe Darren Wilson acted within his rights and duty as an officer of the law and killed Michael Brown in self-defense like any of us would in the circumstance. Now he has to fear the backlash against himself or his loved ones when he was only doing his job. What a horrible thing to endure. Or maybe he provoked Michael, initiated a series of events that led to him eventually murdering the young man to prove a point. I'm offended because the insulting comments I've seen are not only insensitive but dismissive to the painful experiences of others. I'm confused because I don't know why it is so hard to obey a policeman. You will not win. And I don't know why some policemen abuse their power. Power is a responsibility, not a weapon to brandish and lord over the populace. I'm introspective because sometimes I want to take our side without looking at the facts in situations like these. Sometimes I feel that it's us against them. Sometimes I'm just as prejudiced as the people I point fingers at, and that's not right. How can I look at white skin and make assumptions and not want assumptions made about me? That's not right. I'm hopeless because I've lived long enough to expect things like this to continue to happen. I'm not surprised that at some point my little children are going to inherit the weight of being a minority and all that it entails. I'm hopeful because I know that while we still have race issues in America, we enjoy a much different normal than those of our parents and grandparents. I see it in my personal relationship with teammates, friends, and mentors. It's a beautiful thing. I'm encouraged because ultimately the problem is not a skin problem. It is a sin problem. Sin is the reason we rebel against authority. Sin is the reason we abuse our authority. Sin is the reason we are racist, prejudiced, and lie to cover our own sin. Cover for our own. Sin is the reason we riot, loot, and burn. But I'm encouraged because God has provided a solution for sin through his son, Jesus, and with it, the transformed heart and mind, one that's capable of looking past the outward and seeing what's truly important in every human being. The cure for Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, and Eric Gardner tragedies is not education or exposure. It's the gospel. So finally, I'm encouraged because the gospel gives mankind hope. Very powerful words, very powerful sentiment, and we'll get to a video that he was on the record earlier in the week on Fox News. We'll get into the video of that after the break. Right now, we're going to go to our second break. You're listening to The Weekend Sit and Spin. I'm your host, Drew Howard. Quick plug. Next Friday evening, Suburban Myth, December the 5th, will be at South End Brewery downtown, playing 10 to 1, I believe. So come check it out. It's a great time. One of the hottest bands in Charleston. They're blowing up. Hey, they were just on Bubba the Love Sponge show down in Tampa. They're all over the place. BBC One, you can hear them all over the place, and you'll probably hear some later on today. So if you're in the Charleston area next Friday night, December the 5th, get on down to South End Brewery. Check out Suburban Myth. It's not a show you want to miss. Till then, we're going to go out to break with a little 7 Mary 3.
Ancient glass, my old stone face can't seem to break her down. She remembers bridges, burns them to the ground. I have become calm her soul to this world. I have become calm her soul to my girl.
Yeah, this is what happens when you cross fun with classy. You listening to KineticHighFi.com, baby. It's flashy.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet, and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, hey.
Hey, why is the computer so slow?
Internet connection?
It can't be the internet connection. We pay like $300 a month for that.
Holy chestnuts.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, I know.
Yeah.
So it must be. Let's look around here for a second.
All right.
Yeah. You know what?
What?
Where's this wire go?
Dead wire?
That wire.
I don't know. It looks new.
It does kind of look new, but then there's like 18 wires down there. Let's try plugging it in over here. What do you say?
No, not there. No, right here.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Are you sure, Tom?
Positive. Plug it in.
All right, let's try that out.
Okay.
Don't be that guy. Instead, put your trust in ITSimplified.com. Cloud computing, data center servers, network management, Web 2.0, SQL, scalable architectures, programming, tech infrastructure, security, and anything else you shouldn't bother trying to figure out. Call 843-376-1991. That's 843-376-1991. ITSimplified.com. That's IT-simplified.com. Solutions simplified. Yeah, it's what happens when you cross big with small. KineticHiFi.com. It's me. What you think I was gonna say? Hey, you people get your head together. I don't even know what you're trying to add to the I got that.
When my cup's already overfilled, but it's on the table, the fire's cooking, and the farming babies and the slaves are all working, and it's on the table, the mouths are choking, but I'm going hungry.
And welcome back into the Weekend Sit and Spin. KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. And check us out every Saturday from 9 to noon right here, both those places I mentioned. And then also Sunday mornings for the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. You got the Drew Howard Show from 9 to 11. Then after that, you've got the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly. For 4 hours every Sunday morning, Sit and Spin Radio takes over the airwaves at KineticHiFi.com. You don't want to miss that. So join us tomorrow morning as well. Oh, said we'd play the video real quick in this break right here. I'll play this video of Benjamin Watson speaking on the record on Fox News Channel yesterday, actually on Friday. So we read his Facebook post that he made on, I guess Monday it was, right after the news broke about the Darren Wilson indictment in Ferguson. Play this video real quick and set up going from there.
To express his wide range of emotions in the aftermath of the Ferguson grand jury decision, New Orleans Saints NFL player Benjamin Watson writes, "I'm embarrassed because the looting, violent protests, and law-breaking only confirm and in the minds of many validate the stereotypes and thus the inferior treatment. I'm offended because of the insulting comments I've seen that are not only insensitive but dismissive to the painful experiences of others. I'm hopeful because I know that while we still have race issues in America, we enjoy a much different normal than those of our parents and grandparents. I see it in my personal relationships with teammates, friends, and mentors. And it's a beautiful thing. That Facebook post going viral. And now, Benjamin Watson joins us in an on-the-record exclusive. Benjamin, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So I was reading some of the reports. You said that you were surprised by the reaction of this Facebook post, and I have to say, Benjamin, it's a beautiful post, and I think when someone like you comes out and really is able to put themselves in the shoes of both sides on this, and all we've seen is literally black and white, two very differing positions, you've seemingly put yourself in the middle and said, you know what, I can understand both, and people are really responding to it.
I'm totally surprised by the response, honestly. They're just my thoughts, and when something like this happens, it's so hard to put your thoughts into words, and that's simply what I tried to do. You know, I do some writing from time to time, and whenever there's something that is bothering me or something that I can't quite put my emotions into check, I write it down. And it's amazing when you write things down how you get to the different layers of your emotion and you kind of figure out how you truly feel.
I was really taken with this one paragraph where you say that you're frustrated because pop culture, the movies, the music, glorifies these type of partisan-citizen altercations and promotes this invincible attitude that continues to get young men killed in real life. Who would you point to in the culture that's responsible for that. And a lot of people say, where's the leadership to start to bring us out and move us forward and put us on a path to healing?
Yeah, well, first of all, the leadership comes from the household. It comes from the family. And, as a parent of 4 kids, my kids need to look to me for that leadership, and it's my job as a parent to tell them what's real and what's not real, and to grow them up, to be respectful, to do things the right way, so that we can avoid some of these things that happen. And I wouldn't point my finger to any one individual, but as a culture in general, we do glorify violence. Whether you're looking at Hollywood, whether you're looking at music, whether you're looking at pop culture, like I said, we as a culture glorify violence, and sometimes that violence happens in real life, and guess what? There's no repeat. When that happens in real life, there's no repeat. And so I think it's incumbent upon parents, families, to teach children the difference between, and to teach children that, while this may be cool on TV, it's not cool in real life.
Benjamin, you make such a great point, because I think the family structure in general among whites, blacks, Hispanics is really in crisis in this country, and I think people are really encouraged to see someone like you in the public eye coming forward, offering such inspiring words. Going forward, how do you think that we start to begin to heal from Ferguson?
Well, I think the number one thing is just to acknowledge your feelings. Initially I was angry as a black man, knowing the history of this country, knowing the things that we've gone through. I was angry, and I think that's a correct response. Past that, you understand that, hey, I don't know everything that happened. I wasn't there. There may be things that I don't know. That I'm embarrassed at certain things about how some people reacted to the decision not to prosecute. I mean, there's so many different layers, but ultimately, I said in the end of my post, I said that I really believe that this is a sin problem, that we all have the propensity to be prideful. We have the propensity to be racist. We all have the propensity to point fingers at people, to lie, to cheat, to do all those things. And so until we are able to deal with that sin through the blood of Christ, I don't think there's any moving forward, because education isn't always the answer.
Benjamin, what about the controversial figures that seem to inject themselves in these issues, the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons? Do you think that they hurt, or do you think that they help?
That's a great question, and I can't say whether they help or hurt. I do know that those men have done tremendous things for the black community, and I do know that at the same time, how things are portrayed on television, how things are portrayed on radio, they incite people. And so those individuals, I know they mean well. I don't know them personally, so I can't say if they help or hurt, but I do trust that they have everyone's best interest at heart, not just white, but black also, and race relations in general, I think, are better. Like I said in my post, we are in a better spot, I believe, than where we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago. There's a long way to go, but my true belief is that education, exposure is not the real answer. The real answer is dealing with the heart problem, and the heart problem of man is our sinful nature.
You have, I'm sure, gotten mixed reviews, overwhelmingly encouraging, though. I was reading some of the comments on your post. Hip-hop artist Pharrell came out. He also took a pretty moderated view on this, and he said we need to have a discussion. He also expressed anger in the original decision. But he also said, why are people like Michael Brown acting like a bully? Let's have that conversation. Why is he behaving in this way? And I think both of you are sparking a debate which we need to have. Have you gotten some flack for your Facebook post?
Of course. And it's great to have flack, honestly, because people are expressing their feelings. Whether they agree with me or not, I think it's important to have the conversation, like Pharrell said. And if a guy's being a bully when he's trying when a cop is simply telling him to do something, or if a cop comes and the cop is being the bully, as we know, people don't react well when they are tried in that way. And so the conversation is the start. We can sit down and be honest and say, as a black man, I feel this. As a white American, I feel this. I think that's a great place to start, and that's when we can really have true change, when we're able to sit down and not be offended by one another, but simply say, what, because of my life experiences, because of what's been told to me, because of what's happened to me, I feel this way. I understand that you feel differently, and I'm not going to condemn you for how you feel. Let's talk about it, and let's try to move forward.
That's right. I think everyone's feelings are validated, and it's important to listen to everybody. And you know what, Benjamin? I think you could be one of those leaders. I think you are. When I asked who are the leaders to heal us, I think you're doing just that. So thank you so much for your time.
And it gets to the point again with that where you're saying we need this discussion and the bullying issue that Pharrell brought up in there. We're going to talk about that a little bit later off the top of the hour break too, because I loved his comments on it. But it really does at the heart of this, again, get to the fact that if we would just be excellent with each other, these situations would not occur. Think about that when we go out to our top of the hour break. You're listening to The Weekend Sit and Spin, KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. You can jump in the chat box at either place this morning. Love to hear from you. We're going to go out to our break and come back with the Rush Hour, getting ready to start up right here on KineticHiFi.com.
Take time with a wounded hand, 'cause it likes to heal, I like to steal. I'm half the man I used to be. Well, I'm half the man I used to be. Well, I'm half the man I used to be.
For the third year in a row, Condé Nast Traveler is named Charleston, South Carolina, the world's best city. Now, a radio station that brings Charleston to the rest of the world. You're listening to KineticHiFi.com.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet, and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
At 164 King Street, find an oasis of calm, the Charleston Library Society, celebrating the written word, dedicated to enlightened thought within an atmosphere of gentility and learning. Established in 1748, it's the South's oldest cultural institution, and you're invited to visit. Come experience the elegant main reading room, our children's center, and join in to enjoy our speakers series, concerts, and other fine programs. Affordable membership is available now and always at the Charleston Library Society.
Your business not going right? Don't know how to advertise? Come holler at your boys right here at Signs to See. We specialize in all your advertising needs. You need t-shirts, business cards, signs, banners. We got it all. Car magnets, decals, flyers. We got it all for you right here at Signs to See. Conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. You can also call us at 843-608-0722. You got a family reunion, you got a class reunion, and don't know how to get your t-shirts done? Well, call Signs to See. Signs to See is conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. Also, you can call us 843-608-0722. Or you can log on, SignsToSee.com. And I do all my business with Signs to See.
Every day is a lovely day. Your Kinetic Hi-Fi, yeah. That's right, baby. You're listening to KineticHiFi.com. It's smooth.
It's so good. Love is somebody. Growing up, it all seems so untidy. The opinions all divided. The future pre-decided. Detached and solid divided. In the mass production zone. Nowhere is the dreamer or the misfit soul alone.
And welcome back into the Weekend Sit and Spin right here on KineticHiFi.com. You are locked into the Rush Hour. We do this every Saturday. The second hour, we call it the Rush Hour because all of our intro and exit music is from the Canadian band Rush, one of our favorites here. And joining me on the phone right now, I've got Nick O'Kelly with us. Nick, you there?
That's right. Welcome in, Drew. How's it going?
Hey, good. How are you doing? Happy
I'm
Thanksgiving.
doing pretty good. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way.
Yeah. Joining us from the road. Out doing some traveling today. So.
Yeah. Had turkey up here with some family, and I'll be back in town tomorrow. But nevertheless, the news cycle never ends as I see headlines such as "Dark Days Ahead" and the end coming for Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little while, but we've been talking pretty much about this whole Ferguson debate going on all morning. So.
Yeah, the thing is about Ferguson, I can't say it really went as far as they wanted it to. I mean, the race riots, they definitely wanted us to break into some kind of a civil war. I have more faith, I think, in the people of America than to be so stupid. But I was so sad to see Ferguson legitimately burned to the ground, and mostly because the cops just didn't want to do it. I mean, they just, they were told to sit down. We knew that going in, but I couldn't fathom people legitimately burning the town down over nothing.
Well, and a lot of it was the cops were ordered to stand down. We're seeing that now. The National Guard's come out and said that there was an order from the White House to stand down, basically to allow it to happen. I think they really wanted to show the out-of-controlness that you would have Monday night, especially with all the gunshots being fired, the fact that they had to close down the St. Louis airport because so much gunfire was in the air. I mean, this is the type of things you see out of Baghdad, that you see out of Fallujah, not that you see out of St. Louis.
No, absolutely not. But we know that it wasn't the people that were living there. The funny thing is, the governor actually called the National Guard into Missouri, and they were in St. Louis. They were not in Ferguson where they were needed.
No, and they were ordered to stand down from the White House. They were never allowed to go where they were needed.
That's exactly right. They were never asked where the actual riots were taking place. And then, you look at the other places where there were quote-unquote riots. I mean, it was basically a gathering of maybe 30 people on a corner in New York City. And then same thing in L.A. But I did notice that they gathered in front of the White House. All of these just very liberal areas, just very iconic areas. And that's what tells me that it was all just a complete setup.
Yeah, and actually I was just going to get into this story. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but it's one that broke out of Infowars.com this morning. It's a Kurt Nimmo article. Did you see coming out of Seattle, the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, where the protesters were literally making children cry? We've got Eric Wilkinson, a local reporter in Seattle, putting on his Twitter, "Children are crying as the Ferguson protesters disrupt the Seattle tree lighting." And there's a band here playing, but protesters are trying to drown it out, chanting "Black Lives Matter." So at what point, do you say, hey, enough protesting, we get your point, but quit ruining Christmas for children here? I mean, the protesters are becoming the Grinch, and I think what we're seeing out of a lot of them, the fact that they're willing to burn down their communities, truly shows that they have hearts that are 3 sizes too small.
Well, I mean, just the simple fact that this is certainly a larger psyop, and it's so simple when you think about the fact that they released the verdict at 8:00, which is prime time. Why would you do that? I mean, why would you ever?
Honestly, I think
it's cold and you have the weather on your side. Why would you do it at prime time where everybody is literally in front of the television at 8:00?
Because they wanted that. They wanted to pull people away. This was a ratings battle against Monday Night Football to see if they could pull ratings away from the football game to get it to the protesters.
And that's really what it's all about. It's all a quest for ratings.
It is.
That's exactly what this is. That's the only reason why Rupert Murdoch and the media moguls will buy into this kind of thing, because they're all getting a payday from it. It doesn't matter to them anyway. So when we talk about why would they sell out to the government, because this is absolutely a government-run psyop going on, and the fact that they control the media is what allows them to be so effective with it. But you have to ask yourself, why would the media be so engaged with just allowing them to go through with something like that? But at the same time, it really is for ratings. I mean, it's money. It's advertisement dollars that are getting pulled in off of the misfortune of the people in Ferguson.
Exactly. Were you listening earlier when I read the difference in the tweets between Fox News and CNN when the breaking news hit?
I missed the first part of the show.
Okay, Fox News reported it on Monday evening when the grand jury decision came back. They tweeted out, "Breaking news, grand jury does not indict officer in Ferguson case." CNN tweeted out, No indictment for Darren Wilson, the white officer who fatally shot Michael Brown, an unarmed black teen.
Yeah, it's all white and black.
CNN's trying to stir up the race riots. They want this.
Well, and here's the thing, too. let's say for a second, just for example, that the officer, Darren Wilson, had killed this boy in cold blood. Let's just say, for example, that had been what had happened. Just randomly, he walks in the store and he shoots Mike Brown in the back for whatever reason. Let's say that's what happened. It still, in my opinion, doesn't need to be covered as white officer shoots black kid. It should just be police officer shoots minor, right? Why do they have to
Well, he wasn't a minor. He was
kid?
an adult. They still want to say child, but he was 18 years old. He was an adult.
You know my point. Why do they have to add the white and the black? Why is the rhetoric stuck in there unless they want it to be a racial issue? You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was intentional on Darren Wilson's part, I still would be upset if they had drawn in the racial aspect of it, right? Because it's not what it's about. It's about policemen. It's about whether or not this guy was acting as he should have been as a policeman, and the evidence shows that he was.
Exactly. And, I've got this clip of Obama here salivating Monday evening when it came down and the way that everything was treating it. I can play. This is a clip that clearly shows how excited he was. He was as giddy as a kid on a Christmas morning. Or I guess for him, we should say on a Ramadan morning. But here we go. Got this one for you, Nick.
It's very sad to see this. All the protesters that get interviewed, the actual violent ones, seem to have talking points as well. And they don't have rational reasons for what they're doing, and that tells me that they've just been set loose by a group of people that want to put this on the American people.
Yeah, well, here you go, Nick. I got you an exclusive Obama clip from Monday evening at the White House.
It may be a mistake, but you don't understand how it feels when that word comes up. So don't say it isn't a big deal. Oh, shit, here we go! It's on! Race war! Race war! Race war! Race war's on, everybody! It's going down! It's going down!
Could you hear the clip?
Yeah, I could barely hear it, but I know which one you're talking about.
It was South Park, folks. It wasn't really Obama, but...
I mean, it just, and like I said, it makes me sad because it's Thanksgiving this week. And what are these people that actually live in? I mean, think about the people that live in Ferguson that aren't a part of all this, that have just been basically holed up in their houses because there's a majority of people that are there that don't know what to do because their city's being burned down and they're scared to death probably. And this is Thanksgiving, going into the holiday season. So, how sad for those people that they've literally been terrorized for the past week.
And
the government's done nothing.
And that gets to the heart of it. I read the article earlier talking about the inconsistencies in the grand jury testimony coming from a lot of the witnesses and how a lot of them were intimidated. They felt scared. There were signs put up in the complex saying, don't talk to police. We've already seen this one guy that is believed to be a grand jury witness that was found shot and burned in a car on Tuesday morning.
Oh, I know.
I think he was like
crazy.
18 or something, too. He was a young kid. That was, an adult, but still a kid adult, as they want to call Michael Brown. But, his only crime was telling the truth.
That's right. I mean, mob mentality is so primitive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For people not to be able to rise above the rhetoric and realize that they're being coyed into doing something for political reasons. That's another part of it too for me in terms of taking a look at humanity and the social aspect of it and why they want to break down like this. I mean, we really have been brainwashed if these people can't realize that they're being psyoped.
Yep, and the protesters took to the Black Friday shopping. Quote here from one of the protesters, Marissa Johnson, a protest organizer. She told a local TV station, I'm guessing in Seattle, because this is where this article was. This is still on the one talking about the tree lighting being interrupted by kids, or kids crying by the protesters interrupting the tree lighting. So I'm guessing this is a local television station in Seattle. She said the protest was designed to harass Christmas shoppers. Quote, America goes where their pocketbook goes, so today we're blocking Black Friday. We want you to be uncomfortable shopping, she says. In addition to drowning out children singing Christmas carols with chants of "No Justice, No Peace," protesters staged a die-in at Westlake Center Mall. They also blocked streets and intersections near Westlake Park. Protested resulted in the mall closing early and police turning away shoppers.
Well, Christmas won't be the same in Ferguson again after this, you know. But again, Joe, you just have to ask the question. You hope they're happy with themselves because they've sabotaged their own community. Well, it's not, and that's the real problem too. I think you have two groups of people. I think you have the protesters that maybe live there or live in the area at least, that are out during the day doing the peaceful protesting that you see. And then I feel like you have a group of people that are just coming in from maybe out of town or maybe they do live there, but they have no beef in it. They're only there to loot, to cause problems, to be violent. So you have that class of people, and the violent ones, you know, what if this is happening in their town? You know, and that's what I guess I wish people would stop and think about for a second is, why are you doing this? What good is it doing? If you really had a beef against Darren Wilson, you know, okay, protesting outside the police station, sure, but why are you burning down restaurants, libraries, churches, you know, terrorizing people from their Christmas holiday? You know, it doesn't make sense.
And they're really going to be the victims of this. We've seen a few people step up and actually try to help out. There was a lady that put out the fire in one of the convenience stores there when they were looting it. Somebody tried to set a fire and poured accelerant on it. They've got them on video doing that. And then a lady comes in and pours milk all over it to put it out. And she wanted to protect the store because when they interviewed her, she says she shops there. She didn't want her store to burn down because then she'd have no place to buy food and stuff.
Exactly.
So, and people are starting to really ask the right questions. We played the clip earlier and talked about everything going on as far as the Facebook post that came out that was really big. And then Pharrell Williams has also come out on record about why aren't we talking about Michael Brown's bullyish behavior. And a lot of it goes, you know, if Michael Brown did not demonstrate the basic tenets that we get to here on Weekend Sit and Spin, he was not being excellent.
Yeah. Yeah,
he would still be alive today if he had shown a little restraint, a little respect. Of course, now, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's breaking now in the news that he was actually a member of the Blood Street Gang, along with his stepdad, the one that they've arrested for inciting the riot.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and
he has complete gang ties. I mean, this is Lewis Head, Michael Brown's stepdad, was filmed right after the decision came in, yelling on a bullhorn to, quote, "burn this bleep down." And now they've arrested him for inciting a riot.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There are hundreds, thousands of examples of legitimate police brutality against whites and blacks throughout the country. We read the stories every week. We have at least one or two that we talk where they've killed a dog, or they've killed a guy, or they've killed a homeless guy, or they beat up a guy, or whatever. I mean, there's stories every week about it.
Yeah, well, we've got another one now that's coming out of Cleveland. Did you see this from earlier in the week where a 12-year-old boy was shot in Cleveland because he had a BB gun? Didn't have the orange cap on it. It was nothing showing that it wasn't a real gun, and the kid pulls the gun out of his waistband when the cops tell him to put his hands up. So,
yeah, I have a real problem with the police brutality situation in this country. It's gotten out of control, and it has a lot to do with police forces nationwide starting to hire a different class of people for that job. But nevertheless, if you wanted to protest police brutality, you have that opportunity, in my opinion, legitimately, almost every single week to do that. But they've picked one where the kid actually was, you know, this guy actually did charge. He was literally defending himself. Yeah, so this example is the exact opposite of police brutality.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's nobody who's doing these riots. I mean, it's almost like they just wanted something, some reason to go burn it down. And I've been listening to interviews of people who have listened or who have lived in Ferguson and who are currently living in Ferguson, talking about how, you know, it's a very poor area, and they've been dominated by the cops there, and you know, they're really just there's a lot of civil unrest going on. The people are very angry, and I can understand all that. If you have corrupt cops in your town, and it's a small town, and you're being taxed by the local government, and maybe you're pissed off. But at the same time, like I said, you can't just pick a random act of violence to just burn your own town down. I mean, surely you realize that there are so many other opportunities to get your point across rather than this one right here. I just can't fathom it. I really can't. And that's why, in my opinion, it is a larger psyop.
And, we've talked about that for weeks on end, about how they seem to be attracted to the Trayvon Martin cases, to the Mike Brown cases, to the cases that, in my opinion, and in the public's opinion, well, certain elements of the public, the judicial side of the public's opinion, are justified killings. There's still no way around it. He killed... In both cases, somebody was killed, but it was justified self-defense due to action. I mean, again, it goes back to Jesus saying we have the right to defend ourselves, telling Peter to sell his cloak and go buy a sword for protection. We have a God-given right to protect ourselves. And there is a divide in this country. You see it a lot with the Obama supporters out there. Well, if somebody got a gun, they just got to kill me because I can't protect myself. And saying that. But, again, it seems to me like they galvanized to these issues, to Mike Brown, to Trayvon Martin, because they know that that's going to be a divisive issue. You're going to have free-thinking individuals, logical-thinking individuals that will follow the facts and say, well, this was justified. Then you're going to have the other side that's going to get emotionally attached, and it's going to cause a divide. Whereas if it was an instance of, say, Oscar Grant, if that one went mainstream and you were seeing riots over that, I think you would see a lot more of the population join in on the side of these cops are out of control. Shooting a handcuffed man in the back while laying face down in a subway station is unexcusable. Shooting a guy that's charging you like a linebacker that's 6'4", 300 pounds, that gives a little more leeway. And somebody goes in there in one of this articles that I want to get to in just a moment and says, well, Mike Brown he was a big, black, scary man, so that's why he was shot. And how much of that's his mentality? I know plenty of people that are Michael Brown's size or larger. People that I'm friends with that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 300-pound black guys. But they're not scary because they always have a smile on their face. They're friendly. Think about Big Ike, for instance, from the Big Ugly Show here. Would you ever be scared of Big Ike?
No,
when you met him that first night, did you have any fear? No, because when you talk to him, when you greet him, he's got a big smile on his face. As soon as you see him, he grabs you in a big bear hug because he's a teddy bear, and that's the impression that he gives off. But
this is America. There's a bunch of big people here. If you're scared of a big guy, you're living in the wrong country.
It goes back to the mentality, though, of how the person acts. If they have a scowl on their face, they're throwing up gang signs, and they're, you go to speak to them and they're abrasive with you, then yes, you are going to have a fear of that. But at the same time, if it's smiles on your face, very friendly, you're not going to be scared.
No.
And that's the mentality. Charles Barkley.
That's what it is. That's why attitude, in my opinion, attitude is so important. And being a good part of society, that's what people have to realize, is that you have to contribute to society in a good way in order to be accepted well, by other people. If you go around acting like a douche to everybody, and you're angry all the time, and you have this demeanor about you, people are going to be intimidated.
Exactly. It's what you portray and what you put off, and that's why it's so important that we treat each other with respect.
I think that's more or less the heart of this argument in Ferguson, is the fact that this guy was acting like a thug or not, right? I mean, if he was going in the store, harassing the store clerk, and then charging at the cop and acting like a thug, and acting as though Darren Wilson actually had a reason to fear for his life, well, he's going to get shot.
Exactly. If he had just got out of the street, he would still be alive.
This guy's running around acting like a thug.
Exactly. Same with Trayvon Martin. If he had just went home that night, he would still be alive. If Mike Brown had just gotten out of the street, he would still be alive.
Can you imagine if we could transplant this liberal media that we're living with right now into, let's say, the 1850s or something, where if anybody shot their mouth off, there was a duel in the street right then and there? And, what happened to the people realizing that you can't, I don't know, like I said, perception's everything. I mean, if this kid was running around acting like he was going to attack somebody, you have to expect someone's going to either hit him upside the head or shoot at him.
Exactly. You get what you put out there. And if you want to put out violent, thuggish tendencies, you're going to get a violent response back. If you want to put out, friendly tendencies, you're going to get a friendly response back.
Yeah.
And it's so much of...
I don't, I don't carry a gun around and just shoot everybody who looks bad at me. But again, this guy was charging in the middle of the street, according to the evidence and according to the eyewitnesses. And that's a completely different scenario.
Exactly. Nobody wants to talk about that. They still want to push the narrative of he was a 14-year-old kid. We're still seeing the picture of him with the Beats headphones everywhere. And they're pushing this narrative that he was a child gunned down for no reason. He was a man that attacked a cop, and that's why he died. It's not a good idea to attack cops. Any race. It doesn't matter. And people are pointing to this new video that came out of a guy at a Black Friday protest shoving a cop, and the cops took him down and didn't shoot him. They tased him and arrested him and handcuffed him. They're like, well, why couldn't they have done that in this case? And again, it gets back to for me at least, the argument of what we've seen with how closed off this community became, with how they've lied, how they've went around and they've intimidated other witnesses. What do you think would have happened in that community if he had tased Michael Brown and tried to arrest him? Do you think that community would have went peacefully with allowing Michael Brown to be arrested, or would he have had gunshots firing from every window?
Yeah.
At him out there? And it becomes this mentality of Obama keeps talking about how certain communities don't trust the police. Well, the police don't trust certain communities because of this relationship. And I'm almost to the point now where I'm thinking maybe we're seeing something out of Detroit where the cops are pulling back, saying, okay, we're not going to go in there, and you're having to see actual citizens step up and run their own community watches again, run their own forms of it again. Maybe we need that on a larger scale, I hate to say, but through the destruction, the good will rise again. If that makes sense, the good people will rise out of the ashes of the destruction. You still with me? Nick, you there? Still there, Nick?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, sorry. Here's my thing. I don't know if the Civil War is necessarily only black versus white, or if they would be just as happy with cops versus citizens.
Well, that's why they've armed the cops and they've turned the cops into a military police force. Like you said at the top of our conversation here, the cops are really hiring the wrong people to be police officers now. We've talked about this. We've seen it for years, how they've went in and they've gotten rid of a lot of good cops, much like how they've done with the military, how they went in, they've got rid of good soldiers that are refusing to fire on American citizens. A lot of them that'll say, yeah, I'll do whatever's asked of me, they're being sheet dipped and washed into the FBI, put into local police departments when they get out of the military. They're getting these positions of power and authority again because they know that they will do whatever the New World Order through the UN asks them to do. They'll take the guns, which we got to talk about that. That's getting closer on December 24th with the UN gun ban.
Yeah, and the UN, that's the other thing. You talked before about, maybe the UN taking control of the U.S. here. In parallel with this Ferguson thing, just in case you mentioned that, news this week as well, Obama purged Chuck Hagel. I mean, there's definitely a purge going on, police departments and military alike throughout the country.
Oh, absolutely. And we've seen it going on for years now. We've seen it going on for a very long time. This is breaking now, also another Kurt Nimmo article, and I've seen a few others. There's one on twitchy.com coming out about it. But did you see where the communist revolution has now kind of commandeered Ferguson? We're seeing a lot of people smash racist cops with communist revolution, the Progressive Labor Party movement sign. I've got a few others. Crowds were chanting, only solution is a communist revolution outside of a National Guard. It looks like National Guard's lined up. This is in front of the City of Ferguson Police Department. They were chanting that. A century later, a Trotsky-esque plea towards National Guard troops, turn the guns around and shoot the bosses down. Communist Party members leading tonight's protests, disseminating literature.
If that's what's going on in Ferguson right now, then I think that more or less basically proves what we're sitting here saying. Violent revolutions are a tactic of communist regimes to divide and conquer the people through chaos. And so we know that the White House and the Department of Justice has given these protesters and the leaders of all of these groups that are igniting these protests talking points. And that right there tells me that maybe we do have a communist regime takeover going on here. I mean, I don't think I don't know. I mean, we know Obama's a communist.
Well, and my thing is, the police were known for being so fair and upstanding under every communist regime.
Yeah.
I mean, Mao was such a peaceful, loving person. I mean, Mao would never shoot down an innocent civilian. Mao would never kill an unarmed 18-year-old black kid. Pol Pot wouldn't do that.
Wasn't it Hillary that was deifying Mao not too long ago?
Yes, she was quoting Mao not too long ago, and
yeah. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. These people, I mean, they don't know what communism is.
No.
And that tells you how lost these people are if they're following a communist talking point into igniting protests in Ferguson. That's very dangerous for our country, and that's a group of people that obviously really don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, I've got, like I said, the Tweetchy one, and now I've got a Kurt Nemo article here that's picked up as well. They seem to think a communist revolution will put an end to violent cops. History shows, in fact, the exact opposite is the case. After taking power in Russia, Lenin formed the Cheka. It assumed the right to conduct quick, non-judicial trials and executions. The Cheka was later transformed into the NKVD. It engaged in mass executions, political assassinations, tortured, engineer famine, and rounding up of millions of enemies of the state who were interned in gulags or forced labor camps. So that's really going to help out,
Wow. Well, and again, it's just important for people to understand that when we look at this, I mean, it at least makes me feel better, Drew, to know that the entire country didn't break out into civil war over this. I mean, because it was pretty bad in Ferguson, and quite frankly, they were hoping that that's what was going to happen, is that every other major city you were going to see the same thing happening.
Well, the stand-down...
The people of America aren't willing, at least as a whole, to buy into rhetoric just yet.
No, and the stand-down, though, also, I think, played into that. They were wanting to show, well, you guys are against the cops. Now be more for the police state. We got gunfire going off. We're shutting down an airport. We've got buildings being burnt to the ground. If we had the police out here with their tear gas and rubber bullets and sound cannons, maybe this wouldn't be happening today. But they're disrupting commerce, transit, and traffic became focal points for demonstrators across the country. Days after the announcement of grand jury in Ferguson, Missouri declined to indict the police officer who fatally shot 18-year-old Michael Brown. As Small Business Saturday approaches, a number of storefronts in the Ferguson area had their windows covered with plywoods and messages painted across many of them, letting neighbors know that the shops are still open. So apparently it was like Clark's. They put a big sign out front that says, "I assure you we're open." They shut down one of the large malls in suburban St. Louis yesterday, it goes on to say in here. But they're attacking the shopping. That's what they really want to do, is shut down Black Friday, shut down the mass shopping.
Yeah, and notice that this is in St. Louis, and they did arrest protesters. And that's my big thing, too. If they had if the cops had shot a couple of those people that were starting fires or arrested a few of them, the very first, the minute all this started breaking out after the indictment or after the verdict was read, the protest would not have lasted all night, and the town would have been burned down, I guarantee it. The cops need to do their job and go in there and shoot a couple of those guys that were doing that, and we wouldn't have seen this happen. And you see this in St. Louis, too. They started the cops doing an arrest of the cops. So why didn't they stop them when they were burning the town down? And we've already answered the question. But it's so obvious to me when you see this kind of thing,
Yeah, and you see the cops all hiding behind their armored vehicles because of the gunfire flying overhead. You see the even media was running. There were only a few members of media that were actually still out there, not hiding behind armored vehicles lined up with the police. I think of Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs and Jakari Jackson and their work they did for Infowars.com, actually running towards the gunfire that night.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job of their coverage. And hats off to them, because CNN and the rest of them really were there to cover as little as they could.
Exactly.
Well, nevertheless, at least to the extent, I think it's died down. I think they've kind of lost. I mean, I don't know. I'm not hearing as much. I think coming out first, we see this protest still happening over the topic, but it didn't work, in my opinion. So what we have is an unfortunate situation in Ferguson and a lot of upset people, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but burning down a ton of cars and videos, and it's just... It's pure insanity we're seeing out of this now, and I don't know. It's all, in my opinion, a ploy to make us give in to the police state, to show us that the only way we can be protected is by the police state, and I don't agree with that.
Well, and like I said, it backfired, in my opinion, because they didn't get what they wanted out of it.
Yeah. Did you see this? This is kind of funny to kind of change away. Jason LaCafana, who works for CBS Sports as an NFL insider for the network's pregame show, The NFL Today, tweeted out a picture of a sign at Auschwitz that says, Arbeit macht frei, which means work will make you free. It hung over the gates there at Auschwitz. We've talked about that slogan a lot. He tweeted that out before the game. I'm not sure exactly what led to this, prompting it. Message of that song is 100% anti any form of institutionalized violence, prejudice. So it has to do with a song that they played on the show as well. Tweeted this out on Thanksgiving, of all days. So that's the real message that CBS wants you to know, is that work will set you free. Another communist/Nazi slogan. That just for 50 years since Project Paperclip, since bringing these Nazis in, they've stayed hidden. Now we're seeing it bust out of the seams everywhere we turn. This really is turning into a Captain America 2 scenario with Hydra.
Oh, Captain America 2 is extremely relevant, and this is the reason.
Oh, exactly, and we've talked about that numerous times about the truth in there. I still can't believe that 2 weeks ago on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on Disney, on a Disney-owned company on ABC, referenced by name MK Ultra.
Well, speaking of that, I saw I'm going to go see it today, actually, but we went to opening night of Mockingjay, and I was pretty blown away by a lot of the subjects they touched on in there. One of them being the MK Ultra at the very end, with Peter being out of his mind, basically.
Oh yeah, the brainwashing and the Manchurian Candidate style assassin.
Drew, I'm going to tell you something. I don't mean to get too much off topic, and I mean this is on topic, but I watched the Manchurian Candidate the other day, the one with Denzel Washington, and that's what that entire movie's about.
Mm-hmm.
Is MK Ultra? They basically knocked him unconscious during a firefight in Kuwait, and they made up an entire story so that the entire platoon would recommend one of the officers for a Congressional Medal of Honor, and he ended up going into the White House. So I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this is I can't believe they put this kind of thing directly into a movie. But sure enough, I see a lot of MK Ultra stuff these days on television.
And we've seen that with the stories of Jessica Lynch, how they wanted to make her out to be a hero, and that whole thing was propagandized. What they originally tried to do with Pat Tillman before all the other troops in his platoon came out, and it was like, no, he didn't die charging at a gun nest. He was shot in the back, double tapped execution style. But we've seen real life instances where they've done that exact same thing, trying to set somebody up as a war hero to use as propaganda.
Exactly.
But that was the thing I did like about Mockingjay, was how it really pulled back both sides using propaganda, and how the real war is fought in the hearts and minds, not necessarily the battlefield.
Yes, they showed the District 13 side doing their propaganda videos, and they even called them bad, because it was, even though they were trying to spread the message of tyranny. And then you saw the tyrannical propaganda as well being put on by the Capitol. So very, very interesting. I thought it was extremely relevant. A good movie to catch, for sure.
I agree. I thought it was very good, and set up the final one very well, too. I'm very excited for that.
But, Drew, when you see that kind of movie, you really kind of, for me, it puts a little bit of motivation inside, because Hollywood is really taking a turn as far as, the type of messages they're putting out in movies.
Mm-hmm.
We saw good messages of freedom from the Lego movie, Captain America, and now this. It seems like a lot of movies are really more pro-freedom than they used to be.
Yeah, you're definitely seeing that underground push for it. On the same side, though, we're getting a lot of technocratic movies. I don't know how many trailers I've seen recently about robots becoming real or becoming self-aware. You've got one with a little kid. There was one where a guy creates... It's almost like a Weird Science type, it looked like, where he creates a female robot that he falls in love with. And
well, that's the thing. The robot, because that's becoming the next big thing. I mean, we're actually starting to roll out robots taking people's jobs and fast food places. There's one of those machines at gas stations now because they don't have attendants to take your orders if the gas station cooks food. Security guard. I saw an article earlier in the week about a security guard robot they're about to roll out that looks a little bit like R2-D2. It's getting really real as far as robots being a real part of our society. We've read the books, we've seen the movies, we've heard the stories, but now it's becoming more real for us that they are actually going to roll this out. And so that's why I think you are starting to see some of these movies, because it's becoming more of a relevant topic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's very scary with the next 2 years that we've got with Obama and the way he's been acting as a dictator as of late. You see, even yesterday with his, or Wednesday with his pardoning the turkey, he had to make an amnesty joke out of it.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
My big question for you is, do you think he's really going to leave in 2 years?
I mean, he's taking such a beating in the public morale right now that I don't see a way where he's going to be able to stay in and not have a giant revolt. You're not going to have the throngs of people crying in the streets begging for him to stay. You're not going to fill up Denver Stadium again there where the Broncos play for him to make a speech. I don't see him having that support from any of the communities now. He's striving to get it from the Latino community, but I don't even think he's going to get it there because we're still seeing in a lot of the polling a divide where half of the Latinos are very pissed about amnesty.
And the thing, though, is he's just going for broke for so many things, these executive orders and so forth, and just obviously, unless the Congress starts putting a stop to him using executive orders and going ahead with all of these policies that are so obviously against our Constitution, what would stop him from him just instating himself as a dictator? I mean, they're not stopping him now.
No, they're letting him continue on.
They left town for the Thanksgiving holiday without doing anything about amnesty, even though they've been talking for 6 months how they were going to develop legislation to stop his amnesty push. Well, they didn't do that. He put it through, and now they went on vacation.
Well, and again, that's because do you really think Boehner is going to go against Obama and risk losing his golfing buddy?
Well, and that's kind of my point. No, I don't think he is. And so in 2 years, when it's time for him to leave, he says, hey, I think I'll stay. I mean, who's going to stop him? That's my question.
I think the public outcry will in this case. Yes, he would have support from Congress to sit around and do that, but I think you would see the public outcry, and you would see other factions of society stepping up and making Ferguson look like nothing, like a pregame show in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to see a real civil war in this country, let him try something like that.
Exactly. Let him try that. Let him try to sign us on or to enforce signing us on to the UN gun ban coming next month. I think that's where you're still going to see the rise. I mean, yesterday we've got reports coming in from Black Friday. Gun sales were through the roof. There were several hour hold times to call into the FBI's background check number because so many people were out there buying guns yesterday. Again, because they realize that time's coming. They're coming to take our guns. We see that December 24th with Christmas, with this UN gun ban going into effect that Obama signed us on to. They're going to try to take our guns, or at least make it more difficult for us to get guns.
Well, and that's really the thing is where people have to realize that this is the time to start exercising your rights, not to start picking and choosing which ones you don't want. because I hear so much people saying, we've talked about this before, but I still hear it all the time where people say, well, I don't have anything to hide. Again, you either exercise your right or you lose it.
Exactly. You might not have anything to hide, but do you really want somebody looking into you? You may not have anything to hide, but do you really want somebody looking into you to begin with?
Exactly. You have a right to privacy. You have a constitutionally protected right to privacy. You have a right to bear arms. You have a right to free speech, and they are attempting to suppress all of those so that we will stop exercising them out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And it's working for a lot of people, I think, where they really, they don't exercise their free speech when the time would call for it, because they say, oh, well, I'll get in trouble if I say this or that, or if I do this or that, or I can't go protest because I'll get in trouble. Look, you have rights when either we exercise them or they will take them away. Starting with the right to bear arms that have been at war against basically since Obama went into office.
Yeah, and it's really disturbing and disgusting how this is all playing out now. It really is, and how people are being used, and they don't even see how they're being manipulated and used. That's very discouraging.
Yes.
You're being used by the lamestream media. You're being used by the people that don't care about you. In all honesty, do you really think Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and Reverend Wright are going to be there 6 months from now when you still don't have an AutoZone in your community because they weren't able to rebuild, when you still don't have productive shops, when you don't have places like that? I hear so often low-income communities complain about not having access to Walmarts. Do you really think Walmart's going to put a store in an area that's likely to be burned down? With how they care about their bottom dollar, do you really think they're going to risk going into a location where there's a good chance that there will be a riot, it'll be burned to the ground, and insurance money will not pay out because it was a riot? That's what we're seeing is all these small businesses, they're not getting insurance money.
Oh, yeah.
Insurances are refusing to pay out because riots aren't covered under their plan. This isn't natural disaster. This is man-made.
Yeah, I mean, this is essentially going to ruin that town for a while. And people, it's very, very sad that this has happened, that these people have chosen to act this way. For me, it looks badly on them. It looks worse to me on the protesters going through with this than it does on the government that's trying to start it. Because the thing is, I expected this from the Obama administration. What I expected from the American people was to rise above it. And what we saw was they played right under there.
Yep. That was the thing, is there was no rise above it. There was no, as Lincoln would say, the better angels of our nature. There wasn't that.
So what do you do from this point forward? Well, we just continue telling the truth about what the Obama administration is trying to do, that this is a psyop being put on by the White House, and hope that people understand it. Like I said, at least it's died off. We didn't see it grow into major cities like they were hoping.
We're still seeing some reports coming out. It is still growing around the country. Bay Area train services got shut down in Ferguson protests in Oakland and San Francisco.
Yeah, there's still going to be pockets, but man, I'm telling you, it'll die out in a couple of days. I mean, this didn't have the right kind of... I think too many people understand that it's just not worth it.
And again, when you look at the evidence here, you see that this is not a case to galvanize society against police brutality, because this was, by all counts, a justifiable defense.
Yeah, exactly.
I
think there's enough people that see that that can outnumber the ones who are being bought out by the White House.
Mm-hmm. Or that are refusing to acknowledge the truth because they are so emotionally attached to this that they've allowed their emotional heartstrings to be pulled, and they honestly believe it was a case of a white officer killing a black kid just because he wanted to.
Yeah, they take it personally as if it's an attack against an entire community, when really it was just an officer defending himself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You don't want problems with police. Quit having your neighborhoods be bastions of crime.
That's right.
You don't want cops in your neighborhood harassing you. Run the gangs out. Don't support the gangs.
That's right.
Don't turn a blind eye to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're really seeing is they want their lawless society without any of the repercussions that come with being a criminal.
But it served as a nice distraction from what's going on with Ebola, from the fact that we're still bombing Syria, from the fact that ISIS is gaining ground, serving to distract the public from everything else that's going on with this White House administration. And that just begs the question of what's the next shoe to drop.
Yeah. I did want to talk about this real quick. Let me find the story. You brought up ISIS. Did you see the latest ISIS threat that came out? That's caused a lot of controversy.
Which was?
Let me find the article here. It goes back to a late 90s post-grunge band it involves. Let me find the exact article. I'm sorry, my internet's running slow all of a sudden. Did you see this one? This is out of Breitbart.com today. It's a Daniel Nussbaum article, but Creed frontman Scott Stapp placed in psych ward hold after calling Sun School to warn of ISIS attack. It's been a rough week for Creed frontman Scott Stapp. Last Friday, Stapp posted a bleak, grainy-looking photo to Facebook claiming he's completely penniless and living at a Holiday Inn after the IRS allegedly froze his bank account multiple times and his record label allegedly refused to pay him royalties. Now, according to TMZ, Stapp was placed on a 72-hour psychiatric hold by authorities after he was found on the side of the road in Madison County, Florida, earlier this month, appearing to be drunk and claiming someone was trying to poison him. Adding to Stapp's woes, the singer's wife, Jacqueline Stapp, told TMZ that Scott suffers from paranoid delusions, including having regular visions of people on fire. Stapp also reportedly left a voicemail message for the dean of his son's school claiming that ISIS was planning to attack the school.
Incredible.
So, definitely some very interesting, very crazy things going out there.
Well, it's a work on that, Drew. Like I said, that's my biggest thing with Ferguson is it's distracting from all of these other topics we've been talking about for months.
Yeah, it's definitely pulling away, and it's, in a lot of ways, I think, trying to shut down Black Friday. As we see, most of it now has become a communist revolution against capitalism. That's why they're going after the Black Friday shopping. That's why they're going after these issues you see. And here, just to give numbers to what I actually was talking about earlier, Black Friday is also one of the busiest days of the year for gun sales. It puts pressure on the system for background checks. Let's see. Buyers have, what was the same? The clock ran out more than 186,000 times. Problem is, records submitted by states weren't always up to date to reflect. They did about 58,000 checks on a typical day last year. That figure surged to 145,000 on Black Friday. So almost triple what they normally do per day on Black Friday as far as gun sales.
That's incredible.
Yep.
I saw, I did that a little bit yesterday. I did not do a whole lot of shopping. I never get involved in Black Friday very much. But it was nice to see that at least people were still getting out, enjoying the holiday season. I'm not a big fan of the big commercialism rush that happens every year, but like I said, in a bad economy, it's at least positive to see people still spending money.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to get away from that. They're trying to shut it down and really push a communist narrative now with the Michael Brown protests. We're seeing communism take it over. But anyways, we've went an hour without a break, Nick. This has been crazy, so...
That's right.
I guess I'll let you...
Very good. I'll let you get your break there.
All right, and thanks for calling in, and we'll talk to you. You'll be back in studio next Saturday?
I'll be back in the studio next Saturday. I've got my normal show in the morning as well that I'll be running from the Roby studio here.
Excellent.
But we'll be back together in the studio and spend next Saturday.
Excellent. Don't forget, folks, if they're listening, next Friday evening, the 5th, be sure to check out Suburban Myth downtown at South End Brewery. Show at 10 p.m. It's very exciting.
9:30 to 12, so come check us out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be there. Come hang out with us. Enjoy some good music downtown.
It's going to be a 3-hour drill. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. We'll talk to you, and enjoy it. Have a safe trip, and we'll see you next week.
That's right. See you later.
All right, bye. That was Nick O'Kelly joining us from the road, normally hosting here in studio with me. He's been out doing some holiday traveling. And as I said, we went pretty much an hour without a break, so we're going to go ahead and jump into a break, got a little rush to take you out, and we'll come back with a little more rush since we didn't play much during the rush hour. You're listening to The Weekend Sit and Spin, KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio.
Yeah, it's what happens when you cross big with small. KineticHiFi.com. It's me. What you think I was gonna say? Hey, you people get your head together. I don't even know what you're trying to do that to do. I ain't got that.
At 164 King Street, find an oasis of calm, the Charleston Library Society, celebrating the written word, dedicated to enlightened thought within an atmosphere of gentility and learning. Established in 1748, it's the South's oldest cultural institution, and you're invited to visit. Come experience the elegant main reading room, our children's center, and join in to enjoy our speakers series, concerts, and other fine programs. Affordable membership is available now and always at the Charleston Library Society.
Your business not going right? Don't know how to advertise? Come holler at your boys right here at Signs to See. We specialize in all your advertising needs. You need t-shirts, business cards, signs, banners. We got it all. Car magnets, decals, flyers. We got it all for you right here at Signs to See. Conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. You can also call us at 843-608-0722. You got a family reunion, you got a class reunion, and don't know how to get your t-shirts done? Well, call Signs to See. Signs to See is conveniently located at 937 Wapo Road, Suite 2B. Also, you can call us 843-608-0722. Or you can log on, SignsToSee.com. And I do all my business with Signs to See.
Do you sometimes think life was just better when I was young? Maybe you're right. You know, there has been a marked decline in girls ages 8 to 14 that participate in Girl Scouting. And today we're looking for girls who are ready to be the leaders of tomorrow. Girls in this age group are vital to Scouting. They serve as role models for younger girls and uplift the community. And ladies, we need you to be that example too. Become a volunteer, a troop leader, or just enroll your daughter in Girl Scouts today. Call 843-552-9910 to learn more.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet, and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
I want to thank all the women for listening to KineticHiFi.com.
We love it!
I know you do, baby. I know you do.
To start to mold a new reality, closer to the heart, closer to the heart. Blacksmith and the artist reflected in their art. They forge their creativity closer to the heart. Yes, closer to the heart.
Welcome back to the Weekend Sit and Spin right here on KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. You can check us out both places. Had Nick O'Kelly on the phone there for the last hour. Great talking to him. He'll be back in studio next Saturday morning here. And don't forget, you can also catch him tomorrow morning on the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin from 9 to 1. We do 9 to 1 for the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin, but he'll be on from 11 to 1. I'll be on from 9 to 11 with the Drew Howard Show, then the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly from 11 to 1. Check us out. Join us tomorrow morning. And as always, you can jump in the chat box at Spreaker.com or KineticHiFi.com. We're in both places this morning if you'd like to talk to us and join in on the discussion. I mentioned this one while we were on the phone with Nick, but now we'll get into playing the actual video from it. President Obama on Wednesday doing the presidential pardoning of the turkey. This year it was cheese and mac. A pair of turkeys named Mac and Cheese were the ones that were pardoned this year, and it wouldn't have been without Obama making a joke about a hot button issue.
Duty on Wednesday, pardoning the national turkey. The audience delighted in his turkey jokes. Most of the audience, I should say. His daughters Sasha and Malia not so impressed.
This is coming out of NBC, so
Today
it's
I'm
very
taking
glowing.
An action fully within my legal authority to spare the lives of 2 turkeys, Mac and Cheese, from a terrible and delicious fate. Come on, girls. Don't. They always keep you over the turkey. You guys walked out?
You want to pet him? No. BuzzFeed's headline.
And that cut out the part I
Obama
was looking
girls
for.
could not.
Let's see if I can find it on another one, another video here. But yeah, he uses it to poke fun of his amnesty for his pardoning it with the amnesty, with the executive amnesty issues. It's such a hot button topic right now that, as Nick even said, we're going to see what Congress is actually going to do about it. They talked a big talk. Are they going to do anything to back up the talk and walk the walk? We will see. Here's a Reuters one, which I think might actually have the line in it.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am here to announce what I'm sure will be the most talked about executive action this month. Today I'm taking an action fully within my legal authority. The same kind of action taken by Democrats and Republican presidents before me to spare the lives of 2 turkeys, Mac and Cheese, from a terrible and delicious fate. Let's face it, if you're a turkey and you're named after a side dish, your chances of escaping Thanksgiving dinner are pretty low. So these guys are well ahead of the curve. They really beat the odds. I know some will call this amnesty. But don't worry, there's plenty of turkey to go around.
Isn't he just so funny?
All right. Cheese, you are hereby pardoned from the Thanksgiving dinner table.
And why, might I ask, is he doing a Vatican-style cross there over the turkeys as he pardons them? I bless you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He's like trying to almost do that over the turkeys. What a joke. Leave the jokes to the professionals, Obama, because you are not a professional. That can be said in every sense of the word. I mean, professional community organizer, that's about it. All right, now we were talking about this earlier with the Black Friday kickoff to the holiday shopping season. Black Friday numbers are out. We saw the protests going against it. We saw just pure insanity as, again, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people go out to get that best deal of the year that they possibly can on whatever item it is they want. I saw a person on Facebook, a friend of mine, a fellow comedian and a really good photographer from up in the Myrtle Beach area that posted, why is it he sees more people at Black Friday carrying things out for themselves? Let's go ahead. I'm going to get into this Mark Dice video I want to play real quick of Mark Dice shaming shoppers at Best Buy. Lined up shaming shoppers Best Buy. This was at 3:40-ish on Thanksgiving Day. Mark Dice in a Santa costume driving to a Best Buy line. Let's play the video of him kind of reciting a famous Christmas poem, I guess is the best way to call it. A famous Christmas poem with a few changes. You might recognize it. It's Mark Dice video. It's on his channel. You can check it out.
Ho! 'Twas the night of Thanksgiving, and all across the land, the zombies went shopping with their credit cards in hand. Thanksgiving is now ruined because of parasites like you, trading family or friends
ends for a flat screen that's new, when out in the parking lot there arose such a clatter. It's Santa on a bullhorn to remind you what matters. Mentally enslaved morons and social media slaves. Degenerates of humans racing towards your graves. When America goes bankrupt, you can look in the mirror. People like you are the reason the New World Order is here.
Thanks for watching.
So that was Mark Dice at a local Best Buy there in California, where he went to give the people waiting in line, the shoppers, little Christmas cheer. We've got a Breitbart article coming out now that shoppers are penalized for honoring Thanksgiving. Stores are welcoming a second wave of shoppers in what has become a 2-day kickoff to the holiday shopping season. The big question is how much Thanksgiving shoppers will hurt Black Friday when relinquishing its status as the frenzied start of the holiday shopping season. Based on early reads, crowds were thin early Friday morning in parts of the country, but traffic is expected to pick up throughout the day. Analysts and store executives were heartened to see shoppers seem to be buying more than just the doorbusters. Bridget McNabb of Kansas City, Kansas, stopped at the mostly empty suburban Target around 5:30 a.m. Friday after a solid day of holiday cooking. I started the dishwasher and came in, she said. Her goal was a coffee pot for her niece, but first, the 55-year-old, who said she was old enough to know better than to be out so early, stopped at the electronics department. They have a great deal on a TV my husband wants to get his hands on, she said. Was only momentarily disappointed after a store worker told her the $119 TV had sold out the night before. Last year, sales on Black Friday slumped 13.2% to $9.74 billion, according to ShopTrack, which tracks the data at more than 70,000 stores globally. Bill Martin, co-founder of ShopperTrack, says it's still uncertain how stores will fare Friday. It's fiercely competitive retail climate. Stores have been opening earlier into Thanksgiving. This year, it was clear that retailers pushed the best deals to Thanksgiving to get shoppers first before they could run out of money. That could mean plenty of bargain hunters who wanted to keep Thanksgiving sacred will feel disappointed over the discount offerings on Fridays. And I'll say, this year at my job, working my day job at a restaurant, we were not as busy on Thanksgiving as we were previous year. And a part of that I'm contributing to the fact that people were out shopping instead of eating. Last year we got busy after the other restaurants around the area closed, and we were the only one open at 7 p.m. We got really, really busy, slammed. This year that didn't happen. Shoppers were out in full force on Thanksgiving. There were 500 people in line by the time a Target store in New York City's East Harlem neighborhood opened at 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving, and 200 people rushed into the Toys R Us in New York City's Times Square when it opened at 5 p.m. For Macy's 6 p.m. opening, there were more than 15,000 shoppers outside its New York flagship store, a little more than last year. So what we're seeing is really the end of Thanksgiving. What we're seeing is that instead of spending time with your friends and family and the people you care about and love, we're now seeing people would rather go out and buy junk, buy cheap-made, imported crap with money they don't have. Another Mark Dice video here we'll play about the shoppers fighting for deals. Fights, Chaos, Insanity 2014. The zombie outbreak continues. Mark Dice video about Black Friday shopping, another one. I don't think this is his poetry.
It's days like Black Friday and scenes like these that make people somewhat sympathetic with the Georgia Guidestones and the Illuminati plan to exterminate the, quote, useless eaters from planet Earth to protect the planet. Black Friday broke out with the typical angry zombie hordes, chaos, and brawls. This time spreading across the pond to the United Kingdom. Black Friday fights broke out over there. Here's a clip of some women fighting each other over some panties at a lingerie store. Oh, I don't know what else to say. If you missed my video, check there's 2 of them on my YouTube channel about Santa attacking the Thanksgiving shoppers who were literally lined up for hours Thursday afternoon at 2:30 outside of a Best Buy in order to save a few dollars on a new flat screen. And check the video of my circling Target to show the entire store was surrounded by mentally enslaved morons, just parasites waiting to go and just suck the blood out of the store. A sad symptom of the sickness of consumerism. These people are subhuman scum, worse than animals. Animals follow their inborn instincts and logical protocols. These people have become so out of control. It's no doubt the Illuminati wants to exterminate perhaps millions of, quote, useless eaters to try to protect the planet from being plagued by these just subhuman scum.
And there we go. To continue up with what he was just talking about in the Mark Dice video, we've got a Kit Daniels article out of Infowars.com. Black Friday now more popular than Thanksgiving. Americans reject family and embrace idiocracy-style consumerism. Black Friday is more popular than Thanksgiving, according to Twitter, highlighting America's trend away from family life towards idiocracy-style consumerism. Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, considered the first day of the Christmas shopping season, was mentioned nearly 25% more often than Thanksgiving at their peaks on Twitter. 77,400 times versus 59,100 times, social media analysts reveal. And they have a graph here that you can look at to show. Not only has Black Friday taken over Thanksgiving on social media, but it is slowly starting to take over the holiday itself. More businesses are opening on Thanksgiving Day for Black Friday shoppers, forcing retail workers to spend the holiday not with their families, but with violent mobs chasing illusionary deals. The deals are so misleading, however, that retailers are in fact making more money during the holiday period. That's right, with the markups, they don't tell you that they're still making a killing off these doorbusters. Oh, I can get a $300 TV for $119. It still only cost them about $20 to make the TV, so you're still getting screwed. It works like this. In the weeks and months before Black Friday, retailers artificially rise the price of goods above normal to make Black Friday specials look spectacular in comparison. Even if shoppers were to score a killer deal on a single product, they usually buy it alongside something else with a 98% markup, ensuring that retailers not the shoppers win at the end. The game's rigged, folks. The house always wins. And the shoppers are completely unaware of this while they punch, kick, and trample each other for the latest electronic slave goods. Simply put, Black Friday is a hoax, and it's synonymous with how the New World Order works. The top profits off the public fighting amongst themselves. It's a microcosm of what we're up against. Meanwhile, in China, workers slave away at factories owned by Foxconn and others to keep up with America's demand for consumer goods, often performing the same monotonous task over and over again for 15 hours straight while earning less than $2 an hour. These workers can't even afford an Apple iPad with 2 months of pay, and they have to share an on-site dorm room with 7 other people. Not to mention suicide nets around the factory because so many people want to throw themselves off the building that they put up nets to catch them to keep them alive. Reminds me of the line in Revelations where it talks about the people want to kill themselves and not be able to. These were, but even with the workers quit, there are thousands willing to take their place because the competition for jobs in China is so high. The employees are always say there are people outside that want a job, one worker told CNET, and the people inside want to quit. These conditions combined cause many of the workers to jump to their desks from the rooftop of the factories, prompting management to install suicide nets around the facility. We talked about that. Some saw the Foxconn suicides as damning consequence for our global hunger for low-cost electronics. Joel Johnston of Wired wrote, reports from inside the factories warn of sweatshop conditions and old allegations of forced overtime burbled back to life. And that's what we're paying for, folks. Every time you go out and you Black Friday shop, you're supporting the blood iPhones. Because that's what there is. They talk about blood diamonds coming out of Africa. Well, there's blood iPhones coming out of China. There are people's hands and blood on the people's hands for that. And I'm partially responsible because I have an iPhone. Here's one that talks about out of Business Week that, hey, shoppers, Black Friday savings are a hoax. This is out of Bloomberg Business Week. We've got right here. Forget the doorbusters, coupons, and friends and family deals. U.S. shoppers on the whole will be paying more over the next few weeks than they do the rest of the year. Turns out retail profit margins tend to be higher during the holiday period despite all the promotions. Among the 15 largest U.S. retailers, operating margins in the holiday quarter last year were 11% compared with 9% in the preceding 9 months. Amid the year-end shopping frenzy, these companies padded their bottom lines on average by roughly 1 quarter. Home Depot and Lowe's may be the only places where a shopper can expect to catch an honest break at the end of the year. Macy's, Bed Bath & Beyond, and L Brands, the company behind Victoria's Secret, are particularly adept at producing opulent holiday returns. How can this be? Dewy-eyed mall rats may wonder. For one, the time-honored lost lender tradition, most shoppers don't stick to the killer deals. For every $98 flat-screen TV, there's plenty more to buy at a 98% markup. Perhaps more important, those deals aren't that killer. According to a Wall Street Journal recently detailed in depth, holiday savings are an illusion. A bit of C-suite sleight of hand. As executives grow ever more adept at price messaging throughout the year. A lot of the most discounted products hardly ever sell at their full sticker price. Meanwhile, retailers regularly push prices of certain goods higher in the months before the holidays, so Black Friday discounts seem more impressive. The deals this week will be fine. They might even be a little better in January. No lines, no crowds. So, and that was from Kyle Stock, it looks like. A Kyle Stock article out of Bloomberg. Yep, Business Week. Definitely check that. Walmart Black Friday strikes. We saw this again this year. Walmart stores workers went on strike again for demanding higher wages. Walmart store workers and activists have a new holiday tradition. On the busiest shopping of the year, they stage protest against the biggest retailer in the country. For the past 2 years, our Walmart, a union-backed group of employees, has used Black Friday in particular as a time to call for higher wages, more consistent full-time work, and respect on the job. Walmart, which employs more people than any other U.S. company, argues that protests and walkouts were mere media spectacles involving few protesters who don't speak for most of its 1.3 million workers. Well, that's because most of its 1.3 million workers couldn't get the day off to protest. Because if they did, they wouldn't get their 29 hours a week that you've got them limited to now. They wouldn't get their below minimum wage you're paying them because you have an office set up in your home corporate office to get them on welfare. Did we see a Walmart being rioted during the Ferguson debacle? No. We saw small businesses being terrorized. We didn't see these corporate a-holes like Walmart out here that are doing its best to keep people in poverty instead of paying a livable wage. We saw it get a pass. St. Louis, did we see the protesters go to the gates of Monsanto and demand to burn it down? For its poisons, for its GMO poisons that's inflicting on our population, for its cancer rates that have increased under GMOs, for the fact that digestive systems have increased under GMOs, food allergies have increased under GMOs, for the fact that we're poisoning and we're killing the weakest among us, children. Children's cancers are through the roof basically because of GMOs. We see digestive issues through the roof because of GMOs. We see ADHD. We see all sorts of mental issues through the roof because of sugars and GMOs and disastrous foods. But did we see the St. Louis protesters go and burn down Monsanto? No, they were too busy with Shanika's hair salon and Shanika's beauty products over there. They were too busy burning down the Ferguson Market. They were too busy burning down the Quick Trip. Too busy burning down the Flood Church. All of these businesses were locally owned by people who have put their heart, their soul, their blood, their sweat, their tears, and every penny they've ever had to their name into their business to try to make something better of themselves. And that's who you chose to attack. That's who you chose to burn down. That's who you chose to destroy the lives of. You ungrateful, disgusting animals. That's all you are. The riots in Ferguson were animalistic at the core, and they destroyed the weakest among them. Not the pure evil, not the demonic corporations that are run amok, that are killing every American, man, woman, and child, black, white, Asian, Indian, Mexican, Hispanic, doesn't matter where they're coming from. They are being killed by Monsanto. They are being killed by Walmart. And do we see a backlash against that? No. That's where the real injustices come out of Ferguson. Yet in some ways, Walmart has improved its treatment of employees over the past 2 years, this article goes on to say. It's again out of Bloomberg Business. Just don't expect the company to credit the protest. Workers in retail and fast food industries have spoken out about how hard it is to get by on low wages, especially when they can't work as much as they would like. Congressional report, The Low Wage Drag on Our Economy, criticizes Walmart for relying on public assistance to help its employees meet ends. Again, criticizes Walmart for relying on public assistance to help its employees meet ends. Why should somebody with a job be on welfare? Where is this mentality among our corporate leaders to pay their employees a livable wage? Henry Ford often spoke about he paid his employees enough so they could buy his vehicles because that's how he was going to be a strong, successful company. Barry Ritzold, a Bloomberg View columnist, called Walmart a welfare queen, and he wasn't the only one. Walmart's program, Access to Open Shifts, which was introduced this spring, seems to be addressing some of these concerns. It lets workers browse the company's scheduling system for available shifts, even in different departments. If workers want more hours, they should be able to get them, as long as they're below their 29 hours, so that way we don't have to pay Obamacare. So we're going to get into that in this third hour, too. I've got a few Obamacare articles and how the war is getting ready to start up with the corporate mandate going into effect. Of course, the biggest issue for workers is their pay. Rallying cry is now at $15 an hour. Walmart says the average for a full-time associate in the U.S. stores is about $12.94 an hour, and describes the majority of its workers as full-time without offering more precise information. Now, see, that's a good pay if you can get a full-time job at Walmart. Claims most of them are full-time. However, what we're seeing is it's no longer offering 40-hour work weeks. Walmart will no longer be offering health insurance to employees who work less than an average of 30 hours a week, affecting some 30,000 people. If that doesn't sound like a lot, it's because 3 years ago the retailer cut health benefits for part-time workers who work less than 24 hours a week. So they've already cut it once, now they're cutting it again. Walmart's newest chief executive, Doug McMillon, did say that one day the company would like to pay all of its employees more than the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. It's our intention over time that we'd like to be in a situation where we don't pay minimum wage at all, he said in October. Then why don't you? Hobby Lobby does it. Hobby Lobby pays all their employees around $13 an hour, $11 to $13 an hour, and they have very happy employees that work there. They give their employees health benefits. They make profits. Their bottom line isn't hurting. Oh, but that's right. Hobby Lobby, their owners, well, they do this radical thing among businesses where they give all of their glory not to their corporate offices, not to their board of directors, not to the people screwing over the employees, but they give all their glory to God for allowing that to happen. See how that works? They run a profitable, productive company that takes care of their workers because they run it on a biblical foundation of honoring God, of being excellent to their customers and their employees. Folks, it's paraphrased in us, but the heart of our statement here, the heart of what we rely on here at the Weekend Sit and Spin, of being excellent to each other, is biblical. It's the basic foundations. It's the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Not he who has the gold makes the rules, which is what we've adopted as our new countrywide mantra. Whatever happened to treat others the way you want to be treated? Whatever happened to be excellent to each other? Now it's who can I squash? Who can I step on? What little parasitic bug underneath my feet can I trample on today to make sure I get ahead? Walmart, if you don't want to pay your employees minimum wage, you could do that. You could get away from paying them minimum wage. Your profit margin's there. You don't have to pay them minimum wage. But then certain people at the top of your pyramid in Bentonville, Arkansas, aren't going to be making as much money for them. And that's the real thing that we get at. The people in power want everything for them and nothing for you. And that's why you can kind of sympathize with the communists taking over the Ferguson riots. I can't sympathize because I see the evil that is communism. I see the only way to a better society is unrestricted, unstimulated capitalism. Not a fascism, not a corporation running a government state or the government running corporations, but you get everything backed out and you have free market capitalism where the market decides where your best product, your best ideas are going to be successful, and the ones that aren't best aren't going to cut the mustard. That's how we win. We get back to a society where you get a free market, where people are looked at not based on their skin color, but on their ideas, on what they can bring to market. You want to kill racism in this country? We move back to a free market, not this too big to fail, not this some people get government bailouts while others don't, not this mandated crap that goes on, not allowing companies to move overseas and screw over their workforce for a penny. But you get a free market where everybody brings their best and brightest, and the ideas flourish. That is how you end racism. That is how you end bigotry. That is how we get our American dream utopia to happen. Our utopia is not government given, it's God given. We need to get the government out of the way. We have the tools here. And it's when you respect people based on their abilities, when you respect people based on what they can do and what they bring to the market. We wouldn't have a Ferguson debate right now if we still had a free market where people weren't being supported by government bonds, where you didn't have people living in squalor for generations because they feel that they can't get ahead because they have no ambition to go out and get a job, and the government takes care of their basic needs from them. Or the government gives them WIC, gives them food stamps, gives them HUD housing insurance and housing money each month. If it didn't take care of that, if you were either going to be on the street or working, you would see a lot more of these people turn back to work. As we said in the first article I read, where they were talking about a lot of the lies sprung from the fact that the young men in that community had nothing to do other than sit around and get drunk and high all day. So they looked for any kind of excitement. This became exciting to them. If we weren't giving them government welfare to allow them to do that, if we weren't paying their housing each month, if we weren't paying their food each month, if they had to go out and actually get a job, work for something productive, build and dream, then we wouldn't have that. But as we go through Black Friday, as we go into the holiday season, is the American dream really dead? I have a new article today that's at Drudge Report that says it is. We'll get into that when we get back. We're going to go ahead and take a break here. You're listening to The Weekend Sit and Spin on KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. And before we go out to break here, we're going to play a little Suburban Myth. They will be next Friday downtown at South End Brewery. Sorry, blanking there for a minute. They'll be downtown at South End Brewery next weekend, next Friday the 5th. Definitely want to check that out. Don't want to miss it. It's going to be an awesome show. Before we go out to break, we'll play one of their songs to take you out. Branches and Vines here off of Welcome If Only, the new CD. You can get it on all your digital downloads and physical copies of the show. Check them out. Also check out suburbanmusic.com. Break a little Branches and Vines.
Silence is all I can do. I can't help myself when I look at you. I wanna start again. I wanna lose control. I want to find myself before I lose my soul. I want to bring you in. I wanna change your mind.
When you cross big with small. KineticHiFi.com. It's me. What you think I was going to say? Hey, you people get your head together. I don't even know what time to have an attitude. I ain't got time.
Hi, this is Bob Charles, the host of The Bob Charles Show. I very rarely endorse anything, but this service deserves my attention. Atlantic Repair LLC is the only credit restoration company that is actually headquartered here in Charleston, South Carolina. Unlike other companies that overcharge you because a middleman gets paid and then your credit report goes to Poland packed in sauerkraut. This company is here to help all of us and our credit problems like low scores, collections, judgments, inquiries, and a bunch of more bad stuff. Call Atlantic Repair LLC at 888-957-1118. They are the one company in South Carolina that charges 50% less than any other service on the planet, and no monthly fees either. They work till they are done. They get my vote. Now it's your turn. Call 888-957-1118 or go to www.atlanticrepairllc.com and follow the directions on page 1. They care for you.
Do you sometimes think life was just better when I was young? Maybe you're right. You know, there has been a marked decline in girls ages 8 to 14 that participate in Girl Scouting. And today we're looking for girls who are ready to be the leaders of tomorrow. Girls in this age group are vital to Scouting. They serve as role models for younger girls and uplift the community. And ladies, we need you to be that example too. Become a volunteer, a troop leader, or just enroll your daughter in Girl Scouts today. Call 843-552-9910 to learn more. At 164 King Street, find an oasis of calm, the Charleston Library Society, celebrating the written word, dedicated to enlightened thought within an atmosphere of gentility and learning. Established in 1748, it's the South's oldest cultural institution, and you're invited to visit. Come experience the elegant main reading room, our children's center, and join in to enjoy our speakers series, concerts, and other fine programs. Affordable membership is available now and always at the Charleston Library Society.
You're listening to KineticHiFi.com, baby.
I didn't see the pride runs deep in dusty towns where colors of the flag are served. Little GIs dream while leaders feed on the brave to quench their thirst. Everyone a hero, legends if they die. I'm so brave in my pinstripe suit. Television's where I hide. Everyone a hero, legends.
Welcome back in. You're listening to the Weekend Sitting Spin, KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. A little more Suburban Myth bringing us back from break. Blind Rage, great song. Whole CD's great. Top to bottom, it's like 17 amazing songs. You can also get their EP, which had 6 great songs on it. River of Life, Kissing the Sun. It's all about me. Definitely check them out. Either Plastic Souls, the EP, or Welcome If Only, the full-length CD. Check it out. Great, great band. And it's going to be an awesome show this upcoming Friday night, December the 5th, downtown at South End Brewery. Definitely want to check that out. Had a lot of fun hosting trivia the past couple of weekends at South End Brewery on Sunday nights, filling in for my good buddy Brian T. Shirley, who you can catch right here on Kinetic Hi-Fi every Wednesday afternoon on the BTS show. I sit in with him, help produce it, co-host. We have a lot of fun. It's entertainment. We talk to the best comedians, movie stars, musicians, you name it, just out there. We get great interviews every week with that. Brian T. Shirley and I have a lot of fun hanging out, and we're available next year to go on the road. You want to get BTS comedy on the road, talk to us. We can get you booked in your city for Brian T. Shirley, myself. We'll bring it out there on the road, and a lot of fun. We're starting to book up for that. Also, we've got some Improvables stuff for 2015 in the works for the Charleston Improvables. Hey, had a great show last Saturday night out at Pug's Tavern. Really good crowd. Want to thank all the people that came out. Give a special shout out to the Kinetic Hi-Fi family and Jason Dyerline. Used to do My Positive Perspective right here on KineticHiFi.com. He came out to the show, brought a crowd with him. A lot of fun. Thanks for coming out, Jason. And we miss you here at Kinetic Hi-Fi, buddy. Hopefully you'll be able to get on the radio again back after the first of the new year. Some stuff is in the works for that. Also, a lot in the works for new shows coming. Growing here with Kinetic Hi-Fi and the Fix.fm. So stay tuned. Big information's coming after the first of the year for that. And also, again, want to give a big thanks to Tony Kemp for having the Improvables out there at Pug's Tavern in Somerville. Do a lot of comedy out there. It's always a great venue. And it was nice to switch it up from the normal stand-up they have there every week to do some improv. And Next week, you don't want to miss my good buddy Daryl Rhodes from. We play a lot of his stuff on the BTS show. Talk to him a lot on there. He'll be out there at Pug's Tavern. Also out at Savannah for the Savannah Comedy Review next Friday the 5th as well. If you're in the Savannah area, check that out. Big thanks to Tom Paris running that room down there, and can't wait to see Savannah and Tom Paris and Kat and all them again down there. Hopefully, I'll be back in Savannah. Probably late spring, early summer. We're working out the dates and times. It's complicated because you don't want to do a room too often when you're a comedian, particularly if they only have one show a month. So we're working out the dates, but probably late spring, early summer, I'll be seen at the Savannah Comedy Review again. Can't wait to get down there and spend a day in Savannah. Before the break, we were talking about the American dream, and got a UC Davis economics professor that says there is no American dream, that it's all an illusion. It's all a magic trick, an illusion. In fact, this is coming out of CBS Local in Sacramento. Let's go ahead and we'll play a little bit of this clip here. Let you hear what they have to say about it, and then we'll talk about my feelings on the American
dream. And he's getting international attention for his study that shows the American dream is an illusion.
New tonight, CBS 13's Steve Large is at UC Davis with what the professor says individual success is truly based on.
Well, this professor says that whether or not you can get ahead in America is as predictable as any formula. In fact, he says these are the formulas for social mobility in the United States. And there's nothing to dream about here.
America has no higher rate of social mobility than medieval England or pre-industrial Sweden.
UC Davis economics professor Gregory Clark is sharing his research as a hard truth with no hope.
That's the most difficult part about talking about social mobility, is because it is shattering people's dreams.
Clark crunched numbers in the U.S. from the past 100 years.
YIT equals XT.
His data shows the so-called American dream, that hard work leads to more opportunities, is an illusion, and that social mobility here is no different than the rest of the world.
The status of your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren is going to be quite closely related to your average status now.
UC Davis students I spoke to dismissed the findings.
The parents' wealth has an effect in one's life, but it's not the ultimate deciding factor.
I don't really think that's true.
Professor Clark has heard the naysayers before. Do you find your students arguing with you?
Oh, my students always argue with me. But I think the thing that they find very hard to accept is the idea that much of their lives can be predicted from their lineage and their ancestry.
Stuck in a social status. It's no American dream. Professor Clark says it's the American reality.
The good news is that this is coming from an economist, because economists are used to being unpopular. And so we're the right people to bear this message that, yes, the world is a limiting place.
There is one caveat to Professor Clark's study showing the American dream is an illusion, and that is that for any one of us, there is always an exception to the rule.
Well, Professor Clark's study was published by the Council on Foreign Relations, a think tank specializing in U.S. foreign policy. And
so there we get to the basis of it, of who's really behind not wanting to believe in the American dream anymore, and that's the Council of Foreign Relations. Should we be surprised? No, we don't want you believing that you can grow. We don't want you believing that you're in charge of your own destiny. It's all based on your lineage. Well, let's look at this then. Based on lineage, let's look at the chances that have been given thanks to keeping with the top button issue of immigration. We'll go back 100 years ago to the early 20th century immigration pushes there to Ellis Island, that kind of stuff. You had all of these immigrants that came here. What did they do? Through their hard work, their sweat, their blood, and their tears, they built businesses. They built small businesses, family-owned businesses, restaurants, stores, markets, factories, whatever they could build that they had a talent in, that they could make something better or easier, they built. What did that do? That allowed their kids to be the first one in their families to attend college, to get better educational options. Yes, a lot of it's based on what your family did before you, but not entirely. And more so, if your family didn't leave anything for you, that's more incentive for you to grow, for you to build, for you to develop, and leave something for your future generations. Are we saying if you come from a wealthy family, that it's going to be easier? Yes, absolutely it'll be. You'll have more opportunities. You'll have more capital. You'll have more things to put in. But at the same time, that's no reason to give up. Through education, through hard work, you can achieve. And this mentality that you won't, that ideas can't grow into actuality is what's crushing us, what's killing us back. The ability to dream, the ability to do something, anything, whether it's janitorial work, whether it's food service industry, whether it's working at McDonald's. You can become valuable and have your talents be worth something by finding an easier way to do what you're doing. I think to Atlas Shrugged and how when they were in Galt's Gulch, when all the industrialists, when all the capitalists ran off, went on strike, went into Galt's Gulch and started doing not their passion, but the things that needed to be done, the farming, the cooking, the running the diner, every aspect of it, the power plant, every aspect of that. They were looking for somebody to come in and make it easier because they realized that the most important commodity was time. And something you can do to save an hour of work here or there gives you an hour of work that you can put into what you love, into your passions. That is the productive nature. Instead, what we've allowed is we've allowed government to provide for the bare basic necessities. No hope, no ambition there, just covering your basic human necessities, your basic animalistic desires, the things that you would normally fight for. We've allowed government to cover that and to diminish your ambition as a side effect of it, to give into the vice pleasures, to sit around all day drunk and high, as we talked about with the Ferguson protesters earlier, and the people saying that the neighborhood just wanted something to do because they were bored. Because all that the young males do in that town is sit around and drink and get high all day. The American dream may be dying, but I don't think it's because we're stagnant in our social upward growth. I think, if anything, the American dream is dying because of apathy, because people don't want it, because you would rather have people go out and protest the death of a thug by spouting communist rhetoric. You would rather do that than go get a job. Coming out of Yahoo right now, we've got U.S. CEOs threaten to pull tactic Obamacare support over wellness spat. Leading U.S. CEOs angered the Obama administration's challenge to certain workplace wellness programs are threatening to side with anti-Obamacare forces unless the government backs off, according to people familiar with the matter. Major U.S. corporations have broadly supported President Barack Obama's healthcare reform, despite concerns over several of its elements, largely because it includes provisions encouraging the wellness programs. The programs aim to control healthcare costs by reducing smoking, obesity, hypertension, and other risk factors that can lead to an expensive illness. A bipartisan provision in the 2010 healthcare reform law allows for employers to reward workers who participate and penalize those who don't. But recent lawsuits filed by the administration's Equal Employment Opportunity Commission challenge the programs at Honeywell International and two smaller companies have thrown the future of that part of the Obamacare into doubt. The lawsuits infuriated some large employers so much that they're considering aligning themselves with the Obama's opponents, according to people familiar with the executive's thinking. The fact that the EEOC sued is shocking to our members. Maria Gazelle, Vice President and Counsel of Business Roundtable, a group of chief executives of more than 200 large U.S. corporations. They don't understand why a plan in compliance with the ACA is the target of a lawsuit, she said. This is a major issue to our members. There have been conversations at the most senior levels of the administration about this, she added. Business Roundtable members are due to meet Obama in a closed-door session on Tuesday where they may air their concerns. It is not clear how many members of this group, whose companies sponsor health insurance for 40 million people, are considering any action. It is also not clear if the White House can stop the EEOC from challenging wellness programs. The threat of corporation backlash comes at a time when Obama faces criticism, even from his Democrat ranks, that he has devoted too much political capital to health care reform. Such action could take the form of radical changes in health benefits that employers offer. It could also mean potentially game-changing challenge to Obamacare at the Supreme Court next year and expected Republican efforts to eviscerate the law when they take control of the Congress in 2015. Obamacare allows financial incentives for workers taking part in workplace wellness programs of up to 50% of their monthly premiums, deductibles, and other costs. That translates into hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars in extra annual costs for those who do not participate. Typically, participation means filling out detailed health questionnaires, undergoing medical screenings, and in some cases, attending weight loss or smoking cessation programs. So now your company is putting you at the risk of losing your job because you're obese or because you smoke. Both of which are what's rights to the American people. Constitution guarantees that if you want to be obese, if you want to indulge on sweets and GMO foods and other things that you know are bad for you, you have the right to. You want to smoke, even though we have studies saying they'll cause cancer, you have the right to. Now, should you ask somebody else to pay for your medical care when you get cancer from smoking? I don't believe so. But then again, now we're seeing that water's causing cancer. New study came out. Let me find that study. I saw it earlier in the week. But there's a new study linking fluoride in the water to cancer rates. So we got to look when even water's causing cancer now. Are you going to tell people not to drink? Oh, well, we found out that water's causing cancer, but we can't take the fluoride out because it's so good for babies' brains like mercury. Not false, myth, lie. But is that going to be the next instance? You're going to get discounts if you don't drink water? Let's see right here. Quick Google search here. Fluoride in water equals cancer. Where's the new article? Let me see if I can find it based on... I got to find the one that came out this week. Let's see if I can find it. Speaking this up. There's a WebMD article. When did it come out? Well, this was as far back as 2006 that fluoridation up bone cancer risk. It's out of WebMD. I'm trying to find the one from this week. Which that's something I ran into. I had a non-cancerous tumor in one of my bones that I contribute to the fact that I drink so much fluoride water with tea. You know, I make tea from it. I'm trying to use purified water, things of that nature. But when you make tea with tap water, you're getting the fluoride into your body that way. I had brittle bones. I led to a plate and 4 screws being in my middle finger right now because of the fact that I had brittle bones thanks to water and water fluoridation. Here's one out of the Collective Evolution. Fluoridated water is public murder on a grand scale. This came out, well... It's not new, I guess. Having trouble finding the exact one I was looking for from earlier. Canadian Cancer Study. Showing it. I can't find the exact article I'm looking for. I'm having trouble with that, folks. Bear with me. I'm dividing through. That's why the show works better when Nick's in studio with me, because he can talk while I look. It definitely helps out with that. Anyways, there's a lot of them out there that's going to show that does. Let's go back to this collective evolution one that fluoridated water is public murder on a grand scale. Water fluoridation has been an increasing topic of public concern over the past few years. Skeptics tend to argue that there's no evidence to support the claim that water fluoridation is harmful to human health. If this were true, why are townships all around the world coming together to ban fluoride in their water supply? Communities in Australia, Canada, the United States, and more have been convinced that fluoride can be extremely hazardous to the human health. Sodium fluoride, sodium sicafluoride, and hydrofluorosilicic acid are all used in dental offices, toothpaste, and water fluoridation practices. They are toxic waste substances created from the creation process of fertilizer, steel, nuclear, and aluminum industries. If you still think fluoride is good for your teeth, you might want to read this. Dr. Dean Burke, who was an American biochemist who co-discovered biotin, a chemical necessary for cell growth and the production of fatty acids and the metabolism of fats and amino acids. He was the head chief chemist at the National Cancer Institute, part of the National Institute of Health under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. He was the chief of cytochemistry at the Institute's laboratory. He received Hildebrand Prize in 1952 for his works on photosynthesis. A lot more records there. In fact, actually, I got a video here of him talking about it. So this is Dr. Dean Burke. I gave you some of his credentials earlier that he's gotten, and let's go ahead and let's play this video.
Hier en nu, Nederland 2.
Let's go ahead and skip a little bit. It's playing a long intro.
Now, Dr. Burke, your research shows that if all of the United States had been fluoridated, that would mean about 70,000 extra deaths because of cancer per annum. Those are remarkable, impressive, and in fact rather disquieting figures. Could you shortly describe your research in this field and what results did you get from it?
Yes. The 70,000, of course, would represent 1/5 of all the cancer deaths in the United States, twice as many from breast cancer in women, and twice as many as from lung cancer in man. Our studies involved comparing the deaths of all persons in the 10 largest fluoridated cities of the United States with the 10 largest non-fluoridated cities in the United States year by year. And we obtained a very remarkable curve, which you can see here perhaps. Here is the fluoridated, and here is the non-fluoridated set of 10 cities each. Here's where the fluoridation started, and before this time, both sets of cities were identical. But no sooner had fluoridation started than this curve began to go up, the deaths began to increase, so that this effect occurs very promptly within 1, 2, or 5 years.
Now this, sir, is conclusive evidence that fluor kills because of cancer.
It is one of the most conclusive bits of scientific and biological evidence that I have come across in my 50 years in the field of cancer research.
Would this then, in your opinion, be the end of fluor in water, in drinking water?
It should be the end, and in the United States, it should so be the end by federal law known as the Delaney Amendment, which says that anything found to induce cancer in man or animals cannot be legally put into the food or drink of man or animals. And so, and this is all less than 1 year old, so that it entirely changes any previous ideas of fluoridation that anyone may have had, because this is the first real indication of an important effect.
Now, in this country, of course, the state of the dental state of the union, the way people's teeth look,
this interview was recorded in the 70s, folks.
Would you say that
the 70s.
Stopping fluor had other effects?
We knew it back then,
the dental,
and yet we still pushed through with fluoridation.
Well, I would rather look at it that it would certainly help the cancer death situation in this country, which I'm sure most people would agree is far more important than a temporary benefit to teeth in adolescent children.
Now
this, you see, amounts to public murder on a grand scale. It is a public crime, it would be, to put fluoride in the drinking water of people.
Now, the children of this cameraman and mine, sir, take fluor. Should we stop this immediately?
Well, in my opinion, if they were my children, they would not take it anymore. I can only recommend for myself, but I would suggest to you that they stop it.
Is there a difference in having fluor in drinking water or administering little fluor pills to children?
Well, of course, the little fluor pills are a much smaller proposition than drinking gallons of water per day or per week, as well as taking a bath in it and washing your automobile in it and watering your lawns. That's a very massive thing compared to brushing teeth with fluoridated toothpaste. But our work is immediately concerned with drinking water. What happens to toothpaste, I'm quite willing to let the future studies go into that in more detail.
There is, of course, you talk about murders, an ethical aspect to all this, a law aspect, an aspect of people's inhumanity to people. What is your idea about how should this be implemented in our society? The ethical aspects of administering poison, as it were, to people.
Well, I think this aspect, this murder aspect, clearly indicates a very strong unethical aspect to forcing people to kill themselves.
And there you have it. I mean, like I said, that was recorded back during the 70s, and we're still using fluoride in our waters. We're still having kids die. People die. Doesn't matter, kids, adults. We're seeing cancers through the roof in every population because of the sodium fluoride, because of the hydrofluorosilicic acid, because of these toxic agents in our water, which then in turn we water our foods with, so it gets them in our food. And really just wrapping up with Monsanto, the bioengineering, the fluoride in the water, all of these poisons, environmental poisons that we face on a daily basis. I've got a Jane Goodall quote here that I want to wrap up and leave us with before we go into our final words. Jane Goodall, the famous primatologist, Gorillas in the Mist, studied chimpanzees and other large primates for years in Africa, and one of the leading experts on that. Says, someday we shall look back on this dark era of agriculture and shake our heads. How could we ever have believed that it was a good idea to grow our food with poisons? Think about that. Think about the BT corn, the Roundup-resistant soy, the Roundup-resistant papaya, the Roundup-resistant other forms of crops, tomatoes, cotton, GMO, the cottonseed oil, the canola seed oil, the all of these GMO products that are in nearly every processed food we sell at market. And how the biotech industries, DuPont, Monsanto, Syngenta, they will fight tooth and nail to keep GMO labeling out. Even states that have approved GMO labeling, like Vermont, they're still fighting tooth and nail to keep GMO out. I want to thank Brian Latoya Brown for jumping in the chat box this morning. Thank you for joining us right here on KineticHiFi.com, Spreaker Web Radio. So definitely give a shout out to you. Thank you. And to everybody else that's joining, you can jump in the chat box as well. Well, we've quickly come to the end of another show here on KineticHiFi.com. We'll be back tomorrow morning for the Sunday Morning Freedom Spin. You can catch my part, The Drew Howard Show, from 9 to 11. Then following that, you'll have Nick O'Kelly with the Sunday Spin with Nick O'Kelly from 11 to 1. Every Sunday, we take over KineticHiFi.com for 4 hours, and then every Saturday, we're here from 9 to noon. Nick O'Kelly will be back in the studio next week. I'm Drew Howard. You've joined me today. Thank you for stopping by and listening to us. We'll be back next Saturday, but before we get out of here, really with everything going on, the holidays, the riots, the turmoil in our nation, really the way we fight back against that is remember this mantra. We've said it numerous times. It's what we live by here at Sit and Spin Radio. This is how we win. This is how the globalists lose.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes!
So really, as we go into this holiday season, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever holiday you celebrate, all of them at the basic tenet is getting back to be excellent to each other. Again, that is how we win. That is how the New World Order loses. Our excellence to each other is the first step towards winning. I'm Drew Howard. You've been listening to the Weekend Sit and Spin. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m.